Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet.
Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Crime this Sunday with an episode of Dragnet, The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe. We'll also have an episode of the FBI in Peace and War, Barrie Craig, Confidential Investigator, and Superman. That's all straight ahead. I want to share something with you, and I know some of you are going to be irate because politics is not something that I do on this show often. But I did something on our local station here, and I sent it to a couple of our national hosts, Todd Starnes and Joe Pags, and they used it on the air because the day before, this show's being recorded on the 5th of February, and on the 4th, we carried the press conference with President Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's when President Trump made the comment about the U.S. taking over Gaza and rebuilding it and, cleaning up the mess. And I, talking about making it into the new, I forgot what he said now, making it into the new Riviera. And I thought of a clip from a Stan Freberg show. And it struck me as a thing to do. I pulled it out, sent it to them, and, I put it on, I made a video clip to go with it and put it up on our radio station's Facebook page. And I hope you enjoy this because if you think about it, when you're talking about doing something with the Gaza, I naturally think, I'm a sick, crazy guy. I naturally thought of Stan Freberg.
Gaza Strip! Gaza Strip! Everybody's doing the Gaza Strip! Man get hip! Man you'll flip! You'll be Gaga when you do the Gaza Strip!
Now, that clip came from the very first Stan Freberg radio show, July 14th, 1957. We've aired it before. And if you think I'm insensitive for doing it, think about Freberg's whole piece there, the incident at Los Veroses, and tell me who the insensitive one is. So there you go. I just heard it and I said, okay, satire time. Anyway, this is a Sunday, and this is the 16th day of February, 47th day of the year, 318 days remaining in 2025. Let's see. Studebaker Brothers Wagon Company, the precursor of the auto manufacturer, established on this date in 1852. The National Deaf-Mute College, established in Washington on this date in 1857, becoming the first school for the advanced education of the deaf. The National Deaf-Mute College exists today. It is named Gallaudet University. In New York City on this date in 1868, the Jolly Corks organization renamed the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks. In 1883, Ladies' Home Journal published for the first time. It was on this date in 1923, Howard Carter unsealed the burial chamber of Pharaoh Tutankhamun.
I carefully cut the cord, removed the precious seal, drew back the bolts, and opened the door.
Howard Carter on opening the tomb of King Tut on this date in 1923. Wallace Carruthers received a patent for nylon on this date in 1937. In 1959, Fidel Castro became premier of Cuba after President Fulgencio Batista overthrown on January 1st.
Khrushchev is good friend, good Cuban friend, wonderful person. What do you want that we do? You leave us without petroleum. Khrushchev give petroleum. You leave us without sugar. Khrushchev buy sugar. Your leaders speak about aggression to Cuba. Khrushchev speak about defending Cuba. Khrushchev is friend. Don't you know? Soviet government have no monopoly in Cuba. No factory, no investment, not colony. Never we the Cuban people felt so free as now.
Are you a communist?
Well, wait for the history. The history will take what we are.
And history has told us what Fidel Castro was, the premier of Cuba, on this date in 1959. On this date in 1963, the Beatles got their first number one record as Please Please Me reached the top of the charts.
Thank you very much. We would like to sing a song now which was a record for us, and it was our first hit in England. Way back in England. And this song was released in America. It didn't do anything. It was released later again. And, well, it's doing something, you know. Yeah, it is. So we'd like to play for you now a song called Please Please Me.
If you hear Dick Clark tell it, the Beatles had nothing new. They were, he played one of their records before they became the big hit in the U.S. on Bandstand. And the kids didn't give it a great ranking. It was an okay song, and you could dance to it. But, boy, they sure caught fire. And on this date in 1963, Please Please Me, that was Paul McCartney introducing the song there in front of a live crowd. I think you'd call them a live crowd, a lively crowd, if nothing else. On this date in 1963, Please Please Me hitting number one on Billboard's charts. Now in Haleyville, Alabama, on this date in 1968, this happened for the first time.
911 emergency. Yes, please help me. My husband has fallen, and he's holding his chest. I don't know what to do. Please come. I need your address, ma'am.
Now that not an actual 911 call. It was a generic one for, radio purposes. But the first 911 phone system went into service in Haleyville, Alabama on this date back in 1968. Wilt Chamberlain scored his 30,000th point in the NBA on this date in 1972. Of course, he had scored lots of other things prior to that date. In 1982, Harrison Williams sentenced for involvement in abscam on this date in 1982. Williams told reporters he didn't do anything wrong.
I did no wrong. There was no wrongdoing. And that makes this verdict, obviously, most difficult to bear.
Now, prior to a Senate vote on his expulsion, Williams resigned in March of 1982, sentenced to 3 years in prison. He served 2 years in federal prison, the first time in over 80 years a senator had spent time in prison. Williams also charged a $50,000 fine. In addition to prison time, he would die of cancer in 2001 at the age of 81. In 1987, the trial of John Demanjanjuk, accused of being a Nazi guard dubbed Ivan the Terrible in Treblinka extermination camps, began in Jerusalem on this date in 1987. In 1989, Robin Gibbons spoke to the media about her divorce from Mike Tyson one day earlier.
He's got a side to him that's scary. Michael is intimidating, to say the least. I think that there's a time when he cannot control his temper, and that's frightening.
Now, newspaper reported Gibbons received a divorce settlement of over $10 million from her marriage to Tyson. She later denied the report, telling Essence magazine writer Patrick Henry Bass, "I didn't receive one dime." In 1991, U.S. and U.K. planes bombed the suburbs of Baghdad, injuring at least 11 civilians and killing 3 others in the Gulf War. 2005, the National Hockey League canceled the entitled 2004-2005 regular season and playoffs, becoming the first major sports league in North America to do so over a labor dispute.
Because the solution has not yet been attained, it is no longer practical to conduct even an abbreviated season. Accordingly, I have no choice but to announce the formal cancellation of play for 2004-2005.
NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman, the first time the Stanley Cup was not awarded since 1919, and the second time after the 1994-95 Major League Baseball strike that the postseason of a major professional sports league in North America were canceled. And if you look back, this is probably where the decline of the National Hockey League has done. If you look at the ratings on television, even though the fan base is still rabid, and it's a very rabid fan base in Las Vegas and Salt Lake City because of the clubs there, the numbers on television are just horrible, abysmal. Although the NHL has gone less to broadcast medium and more to online streaming, and I'm not going to say that's good or bad. It's just a changing model of how people consume the National Hockey League. But I'm still going to say that the general audience for hockey is not what it was even 20 years ago. Or even, let's see, when was this? It was 2005. So, yeah, it would be 20 years ago. 2006, the last mobile Army surgical hospital decommissioned by the Army. On this date in 2006, the last MASH going away. In 2011, bookstore chain Borders filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And in 2012, a federal judge in Detroit ordered life in prison for Umar Farouk Adamulila, a Nigerian man who tried to blow up a packed Northwestern jet airliner with a bomb in his underwear. That's not like the guy who went into the Home Depot and they called in the police to evacuate the Home Depot because the guy went into the bathroom and warned everybody he was fixing to blow it up, and it had nothing to do with dynamite. Probably too much Taco Bell. Passing away on this date in history, baseball player, commentator Tim McCarver.
Fairness and accuracy and honesty have always been my goals, along with teaching you something you may not have known about this great game. I hope I've achieved those things.
McCarver signing off from his last broadcast of baseball. McCarver passing away 2 years ago today. Also passing away on this date, singer-dancer Eddie Foy, actor, singer-songwriter Smiley Burnett, Lieutenant Colonel Henry Blake in the film version of MASH, Roger Bowen, also the Governor of California, Edmund G. Pat Brown. From the Public Enemy, the pro wrestling team, Johnny Grunge, passing away on this date, and singer-songwriter Leslie Gore, passing away on this date in history. Birthdays on this date, Charlie McCarthy's father, Edgar Bergen. And the fact that Bergen saw himself as Charlie's dad, it sure didn't do Candy Bergen much good. Also, Hugh Beaumont, the father in Leave It to Beaver. Jazz pianist, organist Bill Doggett. His hit song Honky Tonk. The Andrews sisters, Patty Andrews, born on this date. Entertainer Sonny Bono of Sonny and Cher, and later a politician, born on this date. Singer James Ingram. Margot Hemingway, the actress model. And Wednesday on the 60s TV version of The Addams Family, Lisa Loring, born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
By the way, I checked with a member of the Elks Lodges, the Benevolent and Protective Order of the Elks, and found out that they do acknowledge this date in 1868 as their birth date. I was curious whether they acknowledged the date that they changed the name from the Jolly Corks to the Elks as their birth date, or their founding date. And it turns out, I guess they do. Because I wasn't sure. I thought they might, want to date themselves back to the order of the Jolly Corks. Anyway, I wonder if Roberta Williams had many corks. Probably not, because she was what we would call today a nerd. Computer game designer Roberta Williams did Mystery House, King's Quest series, and Phantasmagoria. She is 72 years old today. Commander Geordie LaForge in Star Trek and Reading Rainbow, LeVar Burton, also in Roots, 68 years old today.
Toby, my name is Toby.
From Roots, LeVar Burton, 68 today. Rapper, songwriter, and actor, probably best known these days for his role in Law & Order SVU, Ice-T, 67 today.
You don't have to lie to me. If you lie to me, this is going to come back on you harder.
I would not lie about this. Ice-T turning 67 today. Duran Duran's Andy Taylor, a prostate cancer survivor, 64 years old today. The 9th Doctor Who, Christopher Eccleston, is 61. The pro wrestler known as Gangrel, David Heath, 56 years old today. He won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor in Green Book. Mahershala Ali, 51 years old today.
What you trying to say?
I don't know. Yeah, I miss her.
Then say that. But do it in a manner that no one else has ever done it before.
From Green Book, Mahershala Ali is 51 today. She was Scarlet Witch and in WandaVision and in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Elizabeth Olsen, 36 today. Those just a few of the people celebrating the 16th day of February is their birthday. If this is your birthday,
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
and we're going to go back a long ways. We're going to go back 71 years, February 16th, 1954, an episode of Dragnet starring Jack Webb, and this is about the Big Sucker.
A wise farmer knows that he must get his livestock under cover to protect them from radioactive fallout. An attack may never come, but it's wise to prepare now.
Farmers keeping their livestock safe in times of trouble, that is something that they all know about. We had that happen here in Ely, Nevada, back in 1949-1950. Massive snowstorm left farmers unable to get their cattle taken care of. And what happened is they ended up doing Operation Haylift, where they flew in hay into these cattle that were stranded out in fields and kept them alive, and kept the beef flowing come the next year. That's a fact. That really happened. Okay, let's go back 71 years after the Operation Haylift. February 16, 1954, an episode of Dragnet starring Jack Webb, the Big Sucker.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Dragnet is brought to you by Chesterfield, made by Liggett & Myers, first major tobacco company to bring you a complete line of quality cigarettes.
You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to Bunko Fugitive Detail. A confidence man has set up operations in your city. The product he's selling has a ready market. Perfect cut blue-white diamonds. Your job? Stop him. Today, you'll hear these 3 words everywhere. Chesterfield's for me. The cigarette tested and approved by 30 years of scientific tobacco research. Chesterfield's for me. The cigarette with a proven good record with smokers. And first cigarette to have such a record. Chesterfield's for me. Chesterfield gives you proof of highest quality, low nicotine. The taste you want, the mildness you want. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you.
Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Tuesday, November 9th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of Bunko Fugitive Detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Didion. My name's Friday. I was on my way back from the record division, and it was 11:40 a.m. when I got to room 38. Bunko Detail.
Did it check out?
Yeah, there's 3 possibles. Descriptions don't match too well. We'll have to check them all out, I guess.
Uh-huh. DeBetta was just in, said he'd give us a hand.
That's good. Should we get on it?
Yeah.
Any calls?
No, let's go.
I got it. Bunko Fugitive, Friday. Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Well, I'm not sure. No, the officer that handled the case isn't here right now. What if I could take a message? Yes, ma'am. He'll call you when he gets in. All right, uh-huh. Yes, all right. If you'll wait just a minute, I'll transfer it just a minute. Hold on, please. Would you give this call to 2949, please? Thank you.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
This is the fraud department?
Was Bunko Fugitive? Yes, sir.
Then I guess this is what I want. I'd like to report a swindle.
All right, sir.
I'll check with DeBetta, Joe. You can go to work on this list.
Right.
I'll be right back.
Okay. You want to come in, sir? Sit down right here if you like.
Okay. Well, where'd be the best place to start?
Would you like to give us your name, sir?
It's Harold Filson. That's with an F. F-I-L-S-O-N, Filson.
Yes, sir.
What I want to tell you about happened to a friend of mine.
All right.
He's a little too embarrassed to come in himself, so I said I'd tell you about it. It's a terrible thing. Should be stopped.
All right, sir. We'll do what we can. You want to tell us what it's all about?
Well, this friend of mine was in the bank one day. He'd gone in to make withdrawal, a couple of $100.
I see.
On the way out of the place, this kind of seedy-looking man came up to my friend and started to talk.
Did your friend know the man?
Never saw him before in his life.
All right, sir. Go ahead.
Well, this little guy said he had a business proposition to put to my friend. Said they could both make a lot of money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
The little guy suggested that the both of them walk down the street to a little coffee stand that's there and have a cup of coffee. My friend didn't see anything wrong with that, so they did. That's where the little guy told the story.
What was that, sir?
Oh, about how he was a DP, a displaced person.
Mm-hmm.
Said he'd come over from Belgium. Big story about how he just managed to get out of Germany with his life. Really laid it on thick, real thick.
Mm-hmm.
That's when he pulled the snapper. Said that he got into the country illegally, that he didn't have any papers, and that's why he came to my friend.
I see. Go ahead.
And see, this little guy reached into his pocket, took out a couple of pieces of folded paper. He undid them, and there were 4 diamonds. Most beautiful things you ever saw.
Mm-hmm.
Fellow went on to say that since he was in the country without a passport, he couldn't take the chance of trying to sell the diamonds, said he might be picked up. So he wanted to sell the stones to my friend. Said he wouldn't have any trouble getting rid of them.
Well, how much did he want for them, do you know?
Yeah. Said he'd sell a lot for $13,000.
That's quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, especially when this friend of mine doesn't know anything about diamonds.
All right, sir. Do you want to go ahead?
Well, the little guy said my friend to take the stones to any jeweler and have them appraised. Said he'd go along with whatever the jeweler said.
And that's what your friend did, then?
Yeah. Went to one of the best jewelry stores in the city. Took the stones with him and had the jeweler look at them.
Now, this little man, did he go into the store with your friend?
No, he said he'd wait outside.
Uh-huh.
Well, the jeweler looked at the stones and said they were worth $15,000. That's wholesale. $15,000.
So your friend bought the diamonds, did he?
Yes. He offered the owner $10,000 cash for them. The little guy wouldn't go for the deal, so he took the diamonds back. They hemmed and hawed around for a couple of minutes, and then he said he'd sell. So the both of them went to my friend's bank, got the money, and the deal was set. The little man reached into his pocket, took out the package, handed over the diamonds for the $10,000. Mm-hmm. Then my friend tried to sell them. He went back to the same jeweler. And that's when he found out.
Yeah?
They weren't the same stones. My friend had gotten a different packet. Instead of diamonds, he bought 4 zircons, worth $25, $30 apiece. $10,000 for $120 worth of cut glass. Now, you've got to do something about it. You've got to figure some way to get that money back.
All right. You want to give us a description of the man who sold you the phonies?
How'd you know?
Well, you aren't the only one who's been taken by this racket. There have been several cases the last few months.
That's all the more reason you ought to get him. $10,000, that's what he took me for. That's real easy money.
Well, the only difference is the amount, isn't it?
What do you mean?
You tried to take 5 the same way. Frank came back to the office, and I filled him in on the story Harold Filson had given me. The victim gave us a complete statement and a description of the man who'd victimized him. He also gave us the address of the bank where he'd been approached. After that, Filson was taken down to the mug room and shown photographs of known confidence men who had used the same M.O. A local and an APB were gotten out, carrying the description of the suspect as well as a complete description of the clothes he wore and the method he used in approaching the intended victim. We got the name of the jeweler who had appraised the diamonds, and we asked the victim if we could keep the stones until we'd finished our investigation. He gave us his consent, and we signed a receipt for the zircons. 1:46 p.m., Frank and I drove out to the Hollywood area where we talked to Saul Maurice, the owner of the jewelry store.
If you'll wait, I'll get my loot and check them for you.
We'd appreciate that.
No trouble. Probably should have known there was something wrong when they came in here. The average man doesn't carry $15,000 in unset diamonds around with him. Let me see the stones.
Sure, here you are. Take a look at these, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're the same ones, same as the diamonds.
What can you tell us about them?
Well, they look as if they were cut in this country.
Yeah? Why do you say that?
Facets, they're cut longer than European stones.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Now, they were made in America.
Is there any way we could tell where?
No. Whoever did it, though, knew what he was doing. I remember the diamonds. Beautiful.
You mean the real diamonds were just like these, then, huh?
Yes, there was a 125 round, 2 1-carat marquee, and a 403 square cut.
You sure about the size, are you?
Reasonably, yes. I didn't weigh them at the time, but I did use a mow gauge on them. That's what they checked out.
You can't give us any idea, then, where the zircons might have come from?
No, I'm sorry. I can give you a list of the men in Los Angeles who might have done it.
We'd appreciate it.
No trouble at all. You want to take these with you?
Yes, sir.
Say, I don't understand. Why would a legitimate diamond cutter make these imitations?
Well, if a person ordered them copied, there'd be no reason not to. Quite often, people don't like to wear genuine stones. Occasions when good imitations do just as well. That's what probably happened here.
Uh-huh.
Whoever it was probably ordered a melange lot. Cut went ahead with it.
Well, now the stones he brought in the first time were real, weren't they?
Yes, fine, high color, beautifully cut. Especially this square. I'll get those names for you.
Thank you.
Say, I wonder if you'd tell me something.
Well, what's that?
Well, my wife's been looking for something to clean her engagement ring. You know, it gets dirty down the little prongs that hold the diamond. Wonder if you could recommend something to clean it.
I'll tell you what, the next time you're in the area, bring the ring in. I'll be glad to clean it for you.
Well, the problem there is she doesn't want to take it off, I guess. I don't think she'd go for me taking it all day.
Well, I'll tell her to take it into the jeweler in the neighborhood. He'll be glad to do it.
Thanks, sure appreciate it.
No trouble at all. Now, here's the list.
Thank you.
Sure hope you can find the man who sold the phonies.
Yes, sir, so do we.
Every time somebody gets stung buying diamonds, it makes them leery from then on. Hard on the legitimate people in the business.
Yes, sir, we can understand that.
Jewelers Alliance has been saying it for a long time. Know your jeweler and you'll get value received. A guy like this makes it twice as rough on honest men.
Well, that's the way it is most of the time.
Always seems like the honest ones get hurt.
Well, maybe not always.
What?
We hope it's going to work the other way this time. "3:15 p.m. Frank and I returned to the office and got out a supplemental bulletin on the genuine diamonds that were being used. We checked with Captain Didion, and he assigned 2 more officers to help us in checking out the list of diamond cutters in the area. The questioning took the better part of the next day, and at 4:37 p.m., when we met in the bunco squad room, we were no further ahead with the apprehension of the suspect. During the week that followed, we continued to talk to the lapidaries in the Southland area, but they were unable to give us any leads as to who might have made the copies. On Monday, November 22nd, we received another complaint. An elderly woman who identified herself as Mrs. Myra Hacken told us that she'd been swindled out of $12,000. The story she gave us was almost identical with the one we'd gotten from Harold Filson. The description of the suspect was the same. Frank and I talked to the jeweler that had made the appraisal on the stones for her. He was unable to give us any concrete information. However, the zircons purchased by Mrs. Hacken were identical with those bought by the first victim, Filson. 2 more weeks passed, and in that time, the confidence man hit 2 more citizens. The method of approach was the same. The story he gave the victims was the same. Nothing in the story was new. The search for him went on. On Wednesday, December 1st, Captain Didion called a meeting in his office.
Come in. Sit down.
Right.
Thanks. Well, what's it about, Skipper?
You know what it is. Where are you on it?
Oh, the diamond switch, huh?
That's it.
Going slow, Captain.
Well, what's the score to date? About $45,000, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're no closer to the guy than when he started.
Well, we got a description.
We can't book that.
We're doing everything we can, Captain. We talked to all the victims, all the people in town who might know who he is. There isn't a rumble.
He must be playing it single. None of the usual sources know anything.
How about the money? Anybody spending more than they can account for?
No, not that we've been able to turn.
Stats office?
Well, they've given us a list of possibles, 14 of them. They've all been checked out, none of them fit.
What about the Jewelers Association? What do they got for you?
Well, they're doing all they can. They put out a notice to all their members to be on the lookout for the guy. Sent out a description to all the diamond cutters asking for information on the stones.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a composite drawing made of the suspect. M.O. sheet. It's been sent to all the banks in the area. Nothing back on it, though.
Well, what's the answer? Got to be some way of nailing him.
Well, we got an idea. The odds are on the long side, I guess, but it's about the only way that we can think of.
Let's hear it.
Well, we know that the guys work in the Hollywood area pretty heavy. Seems that most of the marks he picks are out there. They do business in those banks along the boulevard.
Mm-hmm.
We thought that if we could spot a couple of undercover people in the banks and make it look like they were doing business there, they might be approached.
You meant it when you said the odds were long. How many people do you figure you're going to need for this?
Well, we figure a minimum of a half a dozen. They all should be middle-aged or elderly. Suspect doesn't seem to bother anybody under 40.
How about keeping in touch with the undercover people? How you figure to work that?
Well, we thought we could cruise the area, work out some kind of a check system so we'd know what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll get in touch with Chief Brown. Ask him to line up some officers that'll work the banks. You better get in touch with Hollywood. Fill him in on what you're doing. Might ask for a couple of F-cars to give you a hand in the surveillance.
Right, Skipper.
We'll get together here in the morning. You can brief him on what you want, how you're going to work it out.
Okay.
Better notify the banks, too. Give them the setup so there won't be any slip.
All right.
Excuse me. Bunko fugitive, Captain Didion. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll send him right out. That's right. Do what you can. Here's one to move on. Bank on Hollywood Boulevard. Head cashier says there's been a man loitering in the place for the last 30 minutes.
Yeah?
Matches the description of your suspect right down the line.
The man had been detained until we got there. We were told that the suspect had entered the bank at approximately 11:40 a.m. and that he'd been observed by the bank guard. When the man's movements had aroused the guard's suspicions, he'd notified the cashier, and he in turn had called us when he noticed the similarity between the suspect and our bulletin. We asked the suspect to step out to our car so we could question him. He appeared to have been drinking, but he was cooperative. He got into the back seat with Frank, and we asked him to show us his wallet.
Hey, my wallet.
Is there any money in it?
Well, I don't know if that's any of your business.
You got any money in the wallet?
Well, it might be a couple of bucks, yes. Then again, on the other side of the fence, there might not.
All right, mister, take the money out and hand the wallet to me.
Ain't none. I'm broke.
All right, let's have it.
Sure, I like to cooperate. Always like to cooperate.
All right. Is your true name Samuel Gerald Pugh?
That is correct.
Ever been arrested?
That, gentleman, is my life story.
Is that right?
It certainly is. Many's the happy hour I've spent in your main jail. Delightful place. Referred to in the trade as the Gray Bar Hotel, you know.
Now, what was the charge?
I believe that's referred to in the trade as a 4127 ALAMC.
Drunk, huh?
Oh, now, if you don't mind, officer, rather you wouldn't put it just that way. It sounds so completely undignified. Completely.
What were you doing in that bank?
Then I spent a short vacation with the sheriff out in Castaic. Ah, that was a charming resort.
Look, what were you doing in the bank?
Then I spent a short vacation with the sheriff out in Castaic. Ah, that's a charming
Why
resort.
were you in the bank?
I've also enjoyed the hospitality of the authorities in San Francisco, Oakland, and in Beaumont,
Now, you look, mister,
Texas.
we're not playing a game with you here. You come up with some straight answers and come up with them fast.
Sir?
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to the best of my ability to answer your questions in the order that you present them. Now, I'm still working on the initial one, you understand? Would you like to know why I've spent so much time...
Look, you know what we want to know. We want to know why you're in that bank.
Very well, then I shall tell you. I have spent all of this time in gathering material for a treatise on the penal colonies in
All right,
America.
Frank, let's go.
Yeah. Come on, mister. Get on your feet.
Oh, here now. Now, listen, I resent this treatment. Any And furthermore, I intend to expose your methods in my forthcoming book.
Yeah.
Yes. Realize, officer, that I've given you fair warning. You gonna book me again?
That's right.
Drunk?
We'll figure that when we get you downtown.
Well, that's all you've got. I didn't really do it. You can't book a man to just think about it.
Is that right?
I didn't really do it. I was just thinking about it.
What are you talking about?
What I was doing in the bank. I'm broke and I'm hungry. I just got into town this morning. I arrived amid the sunshine of glorious California. Broke and hungry. So I ambled around a bit and went into the bank. Thought that maybe I'd write a little check. Just enough to tide me over until I decide to accept one of the many offers that have been offered me.
You got any money in the bank?
Oh, that's a trivial detail. However, inasmuch as you gentlemen are willing to accord me the hospitality of the Gray Bar Hotel, I shall accept with alacrity.
Well, that's nice.
I'm gratified that you appreciate my position.
You got any way of proving you just got in town?
Is that necessary?
Might be for you.
I shall have no trouble in supplying such gratification.
Yeah.
I have been enjoying the hospitality of the largest state for the past 3 months. I severed my connection with them 2 days ago.
Is that right?
It certainly is. I, officer, have been in jail for the past 3 months.
Yeah.
In Beaumont, Texas.
The suspect was taken to the city hall and held for further investigation. Teletypes were sent to the authorities in Texas, and they verified the story that we'd gotten. The suspect was booked in violation of 4127A LAMC. The following morning, Frank and I, along with Captain Didion, briefed the police officers chosen by Chief Brown. We told them the suspect's M.O. We gave each of them copies of the composite drawing that had been made. At 10:30 that morning, the plan was put into operation. It continued through the weekend without results. During that time, we received no new complaints regarding the confidence man. Wednesday, December 8th, Frank and I checked into the office.
I want to call Faye, tell her what time I'll be home.
Okay. You want to check the book while you're there?
Yeah.
I got it. Bunko Fugitive, Friday. Yeah. Okay, where? Yeah, we know where that is. Right. See you there. Guess you'll have to call Faye later.
What do you mean?
Suspect.
Yeah?
He's setting up a mark in a coffee shop out on Hollywood Boulevard right now.
You are listening to Dragnet, the authentic story of your police force in action.
Meet the Tom Harmons. You know Tom is an All-American, and now a top sports announcer. Mrs. Harmon is the motion picture and television star Elise Knox. They're typical of people everywhere who are saying, Chesterfields for me.
I like regular-sized Chesterfields. Have for years. They're best for me, at least I think so, because of that Chesterfield quality.
That's the way I feel about them, too. I've always smoked Chesterfields. Now I go for the king size. Guess I like a longer smoke.
So whether you smoke regular size like Elise Knox or king size like Tom Harmon, enjoy America's most popular two-way cigarette. Chesterfields for me. You hear it everywhere. The Chesterfield you smoke today is the best cigarette ever made. And best for you.
The call had come from one of the undercover people that we'd planted in the banks on Hollywood Boulevard. The policewoman told me that a man answering the description had approached her and offered to sell her some unset diamonds. The suspect had suggested that they have a cup of coffee while he explained the deal to the victim. After they'd reached the coffee shop, the policewoman excused herself and put in the call to us. It took us 18 minutes to drive to Hollywood and Vine Streets and to get to the coffee shop. When we entered the place, we could see the policewoman at one of the rear tables. Frank and I walked back and sat down in the adjoining booth. They'd evidently been talking for several minutes before we got there.
You can understand my position. I don't want to have to let them go, but I have no choice.
I'm still not sure why you don't sell them yourself.
There is some trouble about my passport. The authorities are checking it over. If I try to dispose of the diamonds in the usual channels, there are bound to be questions I can't answer.
I'm not sure I want to be mixed up in a thing like this. I've never had any trouble with the law. My husband would be pretty angry if he knew about this.
But there will be no trouble. None. The reason I decided to even bother you with this is that I have seen you several times in the bank. You look to me like a person who would understand and want to help.
That's very kind.
It is you who are being kind, to even let me talk to you. I wish I could tell you how much it means to me to be able to walk up to just anyone on the street and talk. To know that there is nothing to be afraid of. This business about the passport is annoying, but it will all be straightened out. After that, everything will be all right.
Well, can't you wait until then to sell the diamonds?
I'm afraid not. I have bills, I must pay my attorney, my family, they must be taken care of. I need the money now.
I'm still not sure.
Kind lady, let me show you the gems. Just let me show them to you and then decide.
Yes, sir?
Coffee, please.
Yeah, coffee.
2 coffees, right away. There. Just look at them. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful in your life?
They are nice.
These are all we were able to get out of the country. Weeks before we left, we sold everything we owned to buy them. You know, in Europe, diamonds are about the only thing that has a set value. If I were to tell you the trouble we had in getting them, but that would take too long, and I have already taken too much of your time.
Not at all. How much are you asking for them?
On the market, they are worth in American dollars at least $10,000.
Oh, I could never pay that much for them.
But you would not have to.
I don't understand.
It is simple. You take them to any jeweler in the city, anyone at all. You pick him up. Take the diamonds to him, ask him what they are worth. Then come back to me and we can make the transaction. You see what he will offer you for them. You will see that what I have said is the truth. You can buy them from me. I will get the money I need. Then you can sell them to the same jeweler and make a handsome profit. Go ahead, take them. I will wait for you here.
You trust me with them?
Certainly. I knew when I saw you in the bank I could depend on you. I trust you with my life savings.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. Something I can do for you, gentlemen?
Police officers, you're under arrest.
On what charge?
Grand theft.
You must be joking.
Afraid not. Let's go.
You get everything you needed, Sergeant Friday?
Yeah, thanks, Margaret.
You are in with them?
I'm a police officer, too.
How you gonna know?
I'll take the diamonds.
Want to give us the zircons, too?
Yeah. Here you are. It's a lousy deal. You're gonna have to prove it, you know.
We'll take care of that.
How you gonna do it?
Well, it shouldn't be too tough. Have the victims take a look at you. They should give us a positive identification, shouldn't they?
Yeah, I guess so.
Where'd you get the stones?
Picked them up in New York. They're real, worth easy $13,000, maybe $14,000.
How about the imitations?
What about?
Well, where'd you get them?
Friend of mine, guy back east. His hobby is life, you know.
Lapidary?
Yeah, that's it. I had him cut the zircons for me.
Do you know why you wanted them?
No, I told him it was for a joke, asking to make me 6 sets. All of them like the real ones. I only had this one and one more to get rid of. Just 2 more, and you have to tag me. Yeah, rough go.
You need me for anything more, Sergeant?
No, thanks, Margaret. We'll take him in.
I'll go on then.
Right, thanks again.
Glad to help.
Thanks, Margaret.
Yeah, see you downtown.
Right. Tell Chief Brown we'll be in to see him, will you?
Okay.
All right, mister, let's go.
Mind if I finish my coffee?
All right, make it fast.
Okay, thanks.
What's your name?
Nathan Kroner.
You ever fallen before?
Couple of times, small beefs.
Where?
Midwest, Colorado, Kansas.
Big time?
Burglary. Served 3 years in Colorado, 2 in Kansas. Thought you had it figured this time. Sure way to make it pay. Never know, do you?
What's that?
How it's going to turn out. Take this Dodge, for instance.
Yeah.
Hey, you got a cigarette?
Yeah, here you go.
Here. Thanks. I got a match. Yeah, this would never work if you tried it with honest people.
Is that right?
Sure. Right off, I told him I was having trouble with my passport. Even told one of them I was in the country illegally. That's when he should have gone to the cops right then.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna miss that.
What's that?
The coffee. Gonna miss it. Anyway, if every one of them didn't have a little thievery in them, isn't a con game in the world it'd work. You ever think of that?
Yeah, once in a while.
I hand over a bunch of diamonds. Now, I know they're worth a minimum of $15,000. Worth that anywhere in the country.
Uh-huh.
So what happens? The mark takes them into a jeweler and finds out they're worth that much, and right away he's out to try to make a fast buck for himself. He comes back, tells me they're only good for $10,000. You see? Thieves.
Mm-hmm. You about finished with that coffee?
Yeah. Now, the mark stands to make himself a couple of $1,000s going in, but that isn't enough. He's going to take me for more. It wouldn't work if they weren't thieves at heart.
Well, that still doesn't give you the right to take them.
I suppose not. I get a real kick, though, out of figuring what they look like when they find out they're stuck with a handful of cut glass. Must be real yaks to see that luck.
All right, now how about that coffee? Come on, let's go.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you.
All right.
You pull this Dodge anyplace else in the country?
Not me. There's a first place. Figured if I scored good here, I could take it easy. You know, work a bit, maybe once a year in a different city. Keep moving. Don't make any difference how they talk or what kind of clothes they wear. A mark's still a mark. I just had a bad deal. Going good, I could have lived off of it for years.
That's what you wanted, huh?
Yeah, just a deal to keep me in clothes and food. Roof over my head, nothing big.
Well, it all worked out then, didn't it?
What?
That's what you're going to get. Come on.
story you have just heard is true. The names were changed to protect the innocent.
On April 15th, trial was held in Department 98, Superior Court of the State of California, in and for the County of Los Angeles. In a moment, the results of that trial.
Now, here is our star, Jack Webb.
Thank you, George Fenneman. You know, the Chesterfield you smoked today is the best cigarette ever made, and best for you. Now, that's a fact. And to my way of thinking, it's the very reason for you to change to Chesterfield. Try 'em either way, regular or king size. If you try 'em, I think you'll say with all of us, Chesterfield's for me.
Nathan Austin Kroner was tried and found guilty on 4 counts of grand theft and received punishment as prescribed by law. Grand theft is punishable by imprisonment for a period of not more than 1 year in the county jail, or for a period of not less than 1 nor more than 10 years in the state penitentiary.
Ladies and gentlemen, crime has reached a new high. Over 2 million major crimes were committed last year in the United States. You and your loved ones, your lives and property are threatened. Now, during National Crime Prevention Week, the National Exchange Clubs urge you to act to protect yourself and your country. Go to church this Sunday and every Sunday. The nation needs the great moral vitality which springs from church-going men and women. And remember to be alert and be on the lookout for ways to prevent crime. Help your police force and your community reduce the crime rate.
You have just heard Dragnet, a series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice comes from the Office of Chief of Police W.H. Parker, Los Angeles Police Department. Technical advisors, Captain Jack Donahoe, Sergeant Marty Wynn, Sergeant Vance Brasher. Heard tonight were Ben Alexander, Harry Bartell, Virginia Gregg. Script by John Robinson. Music by Walter Schumann. Hal Gibney speaking.
Watch an entirely different Dragnet case history each week on your local NBC television station. Please check your newspapers for the day and time. Chesterfield has brought you Dragnet, transcribed from Los Angeles.
Filter tip smokers, this is it. L&M Filters. The one filter tip cigarette with plenty of good taste. Much more flavor, much less nicotine, and effective filtration. Only the L&M filter contains the miracle product, alpha cellulose. Absolutely pure, non-mineral, harmless to health. Yes, this is it. As Maurice Evans puts it, L&M filters are just what the doctor ordered. Buy L&M filters, the light and mild smoke.
"71 years ago, February 16th, 1954, Dragnet here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll go back 74 years to February 16th, 1951 in a moment for the new adventures of Nero Wolfe.
There is a defense against radioactive fallout. During enemy attack, get to a shelter immediately. Stay there until local officials advise you it's safe to leave. Be prepared.
We roll on now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox with an episode of The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe, starring screen star Sydney Greenstreet. This goes back 74 years to February 16th, 1954.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ringing of that phone bell brings you mystery, adventure.
Nero Wolfe's office, Archie Goodwin speaking. No, I'm sorry, Mr. Wolfe is busy planning a menu. I'll see if he can talk to you. What's the name again? You want to talk to a dame named Mrs. Collins?
Hang up, Archie.
Do we know a Mrs. Collins?
No.
I don't suppose you care, but I think her voice is very charming.
Doubtless. Every female has a charming voice to you. Hang up.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mrs. Collins, but at the moment, Mr. Wolfe is too involved with his digestive system to be interrupted. However, if I may introduce myself, Archie Goodwin, Mr. Wolfe's assistant, if I can be of any help.
Archie.
Yes, Mrs. Collins, I'll ask him. Cocktail party.
Hang up, Archie.
Mrs. Collins, I'm afraid it would be better if you didn't expect Mr. Wolfe. Goodbye. Cocktails. Phooey.
Absurd. Perfectly absurd.
She says you promised to come to her cocktail party, and why aren't you there?
Because you are going to attend the cocktail party and the probable unpleasant ending.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that genius who is the bulkiest, balkiest, the most ponderous, and most brilliant detective in the world. Yes, none other than that chairborne mass of unpredictable intellect, Nero Wolfe, created by Rex Stout and brought to you in a new series of adventures over this NBC network in the person of Mr. Sydney Greenstreet.
Mr. Wolfe and I refer to this as the case of the party for death. Nero Wolfe really should have gone to the party since he'd accepted, but I was delegated. I can't complain now, since it was there that I met Georgia, the most beautiful redhead. Well, that's my weakness, redheads. Yeah, blondes and brunettes. Well, anyway, Mr. Wolfe was adamant about going to the party.
I've never been to a cocktail party in my life. You know, I drink nothing but beer.
You could take your beer with you, couldn't you?
I could not.
Do we know a Mrs. Collins whose cocktail party you said you'd go to?
The phone rang and I picked it up.
Where was I?
Exactly.
Okay. So a Mrs. Collins with a beautiful, seductive voice conned you into accepting an invitation to a cocktail party that you knew you weren't going to.
Archie.
Yes, master.
Just a little less sarcasm, perhaps.
Sarcasm?
Call it impertinence, then.
Impertinence, master?
Exactly. Less of that. Much less.
Okay.
Continue now.
Where was I?
You were reading the duck recipe.
Oh, yes, the duck. Oh, here we are. Dodine de canard. The dodine is one of the oldest dishes in the repertory of French cooking, being mentioned in books of the 14th century. Le Grand Cuisinier de Toute Cuisine.
Hooey, what time is it, Archie?
Almost 6:30.
Oh, in that case...
You gonna get up?
Here on this card are your instructions, Archie. If you are still alive tomorrow, you may make your report.
I helped the huge bulk that was Nero Wolfe out of his specially built desk chair and walked with him to the elevator that would take him upstairs to his orchids. I stepped back to the desk and found the card which bore my instructions. In his small, perfect handwriting, I read, Mrs. Albert Collins, Empire Towers. Arrive at 7, say I sent you. After the murder, telephone me before the police arrive. At exactly 7, I rang Mrs. Collins' doorbell. Mrs. Collins?
I'm Mrs. Collins.
I'm Archie Goodwin. We talked on the phone a little while ago.
Oh, yes. Well, come in, Mr. Goodwin.
Mr. Wolfe begs to be excused. At the last moment, he was unable to attend.
Well, I'm glad you could come.
You're not disappointed?
No, I don't think so. I'm rather upset. I'm afraid, Mr. Goodwin, for my life. That's why I called Mr. Wolfe. Oh, just drop your hat and coat there, Mr. Goodwin.
May I tell you something, Mrs. Collins?
Well, of course, Mr. Goodwin.
Archie will do.
Archie?
When I spoke to you on the phone, I thought I knew what you'd look like.
And?
You do.
Well, is that good?
It's not bad, Mrs. Collins.
Janie will do.
Janie will do.
Archie, I think it would be best if I say you're an old beau of mine.
From where?
In Hollywood. When I went to Hollywood High School and you went to USC.
Okay, but don't expect me to remember much about it.
I'll be flattered if you remember anything about it. I want you to keep your eyes and ears open. Observe everything tonight. Well, now shall we join the party? Oh, Albert, this is Archie Goodwin. Archie, this is my husband, Albert.
How do you do? Hello.
And this is Joe Boyce, my husband's partner.
How do you do? Boys?
I've told you about Archie, Albert, but well, I guess you probably don't remember, do you?
No, I don't.
When I was in high school and he went to USC.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What'll you have, Goodwin?
I'd like a plain lime and soda.
Oh, now, really? A teetotaler now?
Yes, I used to overdo it, remember?
So you knew my wife in Hollywood?
Quite a while ago, though.
Uh-huh. Been here long?
Oh, a while.
Did you and my wife run into each other again just lately?
Yeah.
A few days ago?
About.
Joe Boyce here is my partner, chemical business. Makes this sort of an old home week, doesn't it, Joe?
In a way, Al. I guess it does at that.
Joe knew my wife back in those days, too. And they're still very friendly. Yes, indeed. You two have got something in common to talk about, haven't you, Goodwin?
Mrs. Collins, you mean? We never knew each other very well.
No? Okay, Goodwin, let it go.
Why, look. Look what I found. A new man. Just what I need. I'm Georgia.
Archie.
Archie, dear, will you fix up my drink, please?
Anything for a lady.
Let's go to the bar. Eh, Archie?
I'm determined, Joe. It were only the money, our only Jane. I might listen.
Oh, Al, can't we talk about it later?
I like talking about it now, Joe.
You're going to be sorry about this, Al.
I am already. But you'll have 20 years or so in prison just being sorry. I've got the papers you forged right here.
You're hysterical, Al. Let's face it. The firm went broke, but I suffered too. So let's forget it.
Yes, Joe. The firm went broke, but you didn't. And I don't think my wife did either. The two of you had everything figured for yourselves. Well, I'm turning the papers over to the DA tomorrow.
Nero Wolfe speaking.
Archie, what do you know about this expected murder, if anything?
Has it happened yet?
No, but who's supposed to get killed?
I haven't the faintest idea, Archie.
Then why don't you stop it?
That is impossible. I don't even know who's there.
You want me to tell you?
Not in the least.
How am I supposed to prevent it if I don't know what I'm looking for?
You're not supposed to prevent it, Archie. I don't think you could. I don't think anybody could.
You want to hear what I found out already?
No?
I'll tell you anyway. Collins thinks his wife and his partner Boyce have been stealing his dough, and he's threatening to send Boyce to the clink.
Archie.
Yeah?
You're wasting our time. Go back to the party. There is nothing you can do to prevent the murder. But I want you to be there when it happens.
Now that all the guests have gone, let's sit down here, Georgia.
When Janie was in Hollywood, she must have had more good-looking boyfriends.
Let's get personal about this, Georgia.
Yeah, let's.
When you say good-looking, do you mean me?
I don't mean anybody else, Archie.
You know, I think you're pretty, too.
You'd better not let Jane hear you say that.
You think she'd care?
I thought you knew Jane.
Only slightly. You don't like Jane too well, do you?
Why?
Why? Why what?
Why don't you tell the truth about it? No man as attractive as you ever knew Jane slightly. Either they knew her or they didn't know her. Maybe you think I'm getting a little tipsy.
The idea never occurred to me.
No? Well, it has to me.
Refill your glass?
I'll come with you to the bar.
Here's your drink, Georgia. Oh, I find there's no ice left in the ice bucket.
Janie? Hey, Janie, no ice.
Oh, well, I'll get some. Here, give me the bucket.
Mrs. Collins, Janie, I mean.
Yes, Archie.
May I use the phone in the bedroom again?
Oh, of course.
Will you excuse me for a minute, Georgia?
I'm coming with you.
Why don't you just stay here until Jane brings the ice? Well, why don't you go talk to Joe Boyce?
I don't want to talk to Joe Boyce. I don't want to talk to Joe Boyce ever.
Now, look, Georgia.
I'm coming with you, Archie. Is that clear?
Okay, come on.
Here's where the phone is.
I could have found it myself.
You don't want me with you, do you?
Just sit down here on the edge of the bed and listen, if that's what you want to do.
Nero Wolfe speaking.
Archie, boss.
Well, Archie, what?
Just a bit of a report.
Go on.
At this moment, I am sitting on the edge of one of two twin beds in the apartment of Mr. and Mrs. Albert Collins. Sitting next to me is a gorgeous redhead named Georgia. Georgia what, dear?
Boyce.
You mean you're the wife of Joe Boyce?
Of course. Didn't you know?
I am sitting next to the gorgeous redheaded wife of Albert Collins' partner, Joe Boyce.
Archie, you annoy me.
From what I just learned, I can see there's another friction going on.
You mean Georgia and Jane?
Yep, fireworks between them. This one no like other one.
Anything more to say?
When I called, I was going to ask if there's any reason why I shouldn't come home now.
I wrote your instructions for you, Archie.
After the murder, call you.
Yeah, that's perfectly clear, isn't it?
But what if there isn't any?
Don't call me. Simple, isn't it?
Hello. He hung up.
Archie,
What?
that was a strange conversation.
Do you want me to explain it to you, honey?
What was that business about murder?
Shall we join the party?
Murder. Archie, wouldn't you be surprised if there was one?
Yeah? Who's going to do what and to whom?
I don't know. Maybe I will.
Elucidate, honey. Do you intend to figure as the killer or the corpse?
I don't intend to figure as anything. But you never know. Archie, do you think Jane Collins is better looking than me?
Nope.
Honestly?
Honestly.
Then what's the matter with me?
Nothing. Nothing at all.
Oh, yes, there is. Look, do you want to kiss me?
Well, I'll tell you. When I graduated from Sunday school, I took a vow.
That's what I mean. But if I were Jane, you'd want to kiss me, wouldn't you?
No, frankly, no.
Why not?
Well, when I graduated from Sunday school,
Okay, Archie. Let's go back. You boys have such happy faces. Where's Jane?
In the kitchen getting some ice. Where have you been?
With Archie.
Is he an old school chum of yours, too?
Do you care, Joe?
No.
Mr. Boyce,
What?
how much do you weigh?
187? Why?
Then I'll be giving you 5 pounds. Shall we step outside?
This I have got to see.
Shut up. Mr. Goodwin, you seem angry.
Just terribly, terribly hurt.
Would it do any good if I apologized? Today I'm a little upset. If I said anything to offend you, I do apologize. Now, if you still want me to give you a boxing lesson, I'm at your service.
Let's forget it. I'm sorry, too. Jane Collins came in from the kitchen with a bucket of ice cubes, a tray of fresh glasses, and the strapless gown she'd been wearing.
There. I never thought I'd make it. Now I'm going to mix my own drink, and you can take care of yourself. Ice first. Huh? Whiskey. And soda. It's a simple recipe, isn't it, Archie?
All it needs is the ingredients.
I drink to the ingredients. Nice.
Janie, darling.
What, dear?
Would you mind very much if I took Archie away from you?
Haven't you done that already, dear?
To listen to those girls, you'd think, wouldn't you, Goodwin?
Me, I never think.
What do you do, Archie?
I concentrate.
On what?
On not thinking. I did some serious concentrating on not thinking about Nero Wolfe or about the conflict of the partners, Albert Collins and Joe Boyce, about the jealousies of Jane and Georgia. The next 5 minutes hardly seemed an hour. Jane and Boyce murmured to each other. Collins drank gently but firmly.
Why can't you be honest, Archie? What's the matter with me?
What, Georgia?
You weren't listening, were you?
To every gorgeous word you said.
What did I say?
I want to hear it again, just the way you said it before.
I said, why shouldn't there be a murder? Why not? It's in order.
It's just not considered the thing to do.
Thing to do. Can you think of anything better?
No, frankly.
I can. My glass is empty.
My glass is empty, too. Jane. Jane!
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not much of a hostess, am I? Oh, don't answer that. Oh, you're all empty. But I've only drunk half of mine.
You don't usually drink so slowly, Jane.
I'm just not in the mood tonight. I usually drink faster to keep you from drinking mine. See, Albert always gulps his and then reaches for mine.
What's the difference?
And I'll fix you some fresh drinks, but put my drink over there by you, Georgia. And lay off, Albert. I only had about 3 swallows of it. Besides, you don't need any more.
I suppose we know what dear Jane is going to do, don't we?
Lay off, will you?
Lay off. It's my husband who said that, Archie. Archie, meet my husband, Mr. Boyce. I will now explain why dear Jane took our glasses away to the kitchen when she could have poured a drink right here.
Listen, Georgia, will you...
Mr. Boyce is speaking, Archie. What, Mr. Boyce?
Nuts.
Mr. Boyce says nuts, Mr. Goodwin. What do you say, Mr. Collins?
I think Joe has covered the field.
We were talking, weren't we, Archie?
Possibly.
We were talking about dear Jane. She's got to be always the prettiest, always devastating. Right now, she's putting on a completely new face. And in about 20 minutes, when our tongues are hanging out, she'll come back, all horsed up and bright and smiling, with another tray of drinks.
Yeah, she'll take all night to fix them.
Well, I'm going to get some air on the balcony.
Don't jump off. Al, you're drinking too much lately.
I shouldn't worry you, Joe. Especially now.
When you start drinking, not only your drinks, but everybody else's too, well... Jane's right.
Is that what worries you? Slide Jane's glass down. The ice is all melted.
You see what I mean?
Okay, Joe, let's not be nasty until tomorrow. Well, that gives me an idea. I think I'll propose a toast. Until tomorrow. You know, it may be rather fitting that I should drink a toast from the glass that Janie left. Until tomorrow. Go!
Al. Al? Jane? Janie!
Albert! Oh, Albert.
Nero Wolfe speaking.
May I come home now?
Oh, hello, Archie.
I said, may I come home now?
Have you sent for the police, Inspector Kramer?
Of course.
Who was killed, Archie?
Albert Collins.
How, Archie?
I don't know. You were right, though, weren't you?
Naturally. About what?
Murder.
Oh, that. We can talk about it tomorrow. Good night, Archie. Come home when you can.
What do you mean, come home when I can?
You'll be held as a witness, won't you? Try not to wake me with the elevator when you come in.
Well, Inspector Kramer, you've had me here at headquarters for a long while. For quite a long while. Haven't you asked me enough questions?
Goodwin, you say you never saw these people before, Collins or Boyce or their wives. Yet when all the other guests had gone, you were still there.
I guess I just don't know how to say goodbye.
You didn't know they were partners in a chemical company. You didn't know that Boyce had forged a lot of papers with Collins' name.
All I know is what you tell me.
Goodwin.
Yes, sir?
I'm trying to be nice.
Yes, sir.
Now, I know, of course, that you went to that party because Nero Wolfe told you to.
Do you?
My question is, how did Wolfe know it was going to happen?
Why don't you ask him?
I already have.
He told you?
He says he never heard of Collins or Boyce.
Did he say he'd ever heard of me?
He says he isn't responsible for you or your shady friends. Maybe he knows I found a poison pellet in George's bag.
Inspector, may I make an important call?
Go ahead.
Archie. Confounded light. Hello?
What time is it, Master?
Confounded, Archie.
I'll tell you what time it is. It's a little after 4 a.m. I'm at Central Headquarters, and Inspector Kramer has been chatting with me about my shady friends.
Kramer is a jackass.
Just a second. Pick up the other phone, will you, Inspector? Sorry, Mr. Wolfe. What was that you were saying about Inspector Kramer?
I said Kramer is a jackass.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. Wolfe,
Oh? Eavesdropping, Inspector.
I was just talking about bringing you down here for a little questioning, Wolfe.
Phooey.
What's that?
Phooey. It can be spelled in several ways. I spell it P-F-U-I. Phooey.
You think I won't bring you down here as a material witness?
Yes, I think you won't. I think you'd be making a great mistake if you did.
A great mistake. Why?
Because I might not tell you who killed Collins. Then you wouldn't know which one of these people to prefer charges against. Now send Archie home. Even he needs an occasional night's sleep.
What do you think of that? He hung up.
So it seems. Busy? He's probably left the phone off the hook, Inspector. By now, he's probably asleep again.
You know I can go out there, don't you?
Sure you can. More important men than you have tried it. And where are they now?
Goodwin?
Yes, sir?
I'm going to let you go.
I'm sure Mr. Wolfe and I are very grateful, Inspector.
You want to know why I'm letting you go?
I know why.
Why?
Because if you're nice and cooperative and don't make too much trouble, Mr. Wolfe will solve this case for you and tell you whom to prefer charges against.
Goodwin.
Sir?
Get out.
Thank you, Inspector. Good morning, Inspector. At 3 o'clock the next afternoon, I was rearranging the furniture in Nero Wolfe's office while the great man sat behind his desk watching me perspire.
Are you finished now, Archie?
Yeah, I guess so.
And tell me where they sat.
There were 2 couches, like this, in front of a fireplace. Collins and Boyce were sitting together on one couch. When Georgia and I came in, they were looking at some canceled checks.
Where was Mrs. Collins?
I told you she was getting ice and fresh glasses.
Why was she getting fresh glasses, Archie? Where were the empty ones?
I don't know. Maybe they were the same ones she brought back washed and polished.
Archie, I trust your powers of observation absolutely. That's why I sent you to Mrs. Collins' cocktail party.
Okay, how did you know there was going to be a murder? If it was a murder.
It was a murder, Archie. But isn't it obvious?
How is it obvious? Suppose Collins slipped a few drops of the poison into his drink himself.
It's very strong, very deadly poison, with a remarkably strong odor.
Like almonds, I know. I smelled it when I picked him up.
Archie, was anything found on the body that might have contained the poison? A fountain pen, whatever?
Not even that.
Inspector Kramer found a poison pellet in Georgia's handbag. He thinks she poisoned Collins' drink.
Say, could be. But it wasn't his drink, it was his wife's. Then Georgia was trying to kill Jane, and Collins got it by mistake.
We shall soon see, Archie.
I was expecting a murder because you told me to expect it. I watched every move that everybody made. There's no possibility that Jane's glass, the glass with the poison in it, was tampered with by anybody.
This I believe.
Okay.
Archie, you're sore, aren't you?
Have you ever spent the night with Inspector Kramer? He's really a good man, too. Why did you say he was a jackass?
Because he didn't know who killed Collins.
Do you?
Of course. Was there ever any question about it?
Just a moment, please.
The only trouble is it may be difficult to prove. That's why we are giving this little cocktail party this afternoon with the help of Inspector Kramer. By the way...
Yes?
Call Mrs. Collins and tell her to bring a bucket of ice from her refrigerator.
Why?
Because our refrigerator's broken down.
No, it hasn't. I was just out in the kitchen a minute ago.
Our refrigerator has broken down. And it would be very helpful if Mrs. Collins would bring a bucket of ice cubes.
What makes you think she'll do it?
She will. Call her.
6:45. There we were in Wolfe's office doing a repeat performance of last night's smash hit. 2 couches faced each other, a cocktail table between them. On one couch, red-headed Georgia and me. On the other couch, it was a big one, Joe Boyce, Jane Collins, widow of the lately defunct Albert, and Nero Wolfe. Jane had been drinking a little slower than the rest of us. Our glasses were empty. Hers was still half full. Wolfe said...
Archie.
Yeah?
At this point in last night's party, Mrs. Collins got up and left to get some fresh drinks. Repeat what she said.
Approximately?
Approximately will do.
I think she said something like this. She said, put my drink over by you, Georgia. Lay off, Albert. I've had about 3 swallows of it. Besides, you don't need any more, Albert. Am I right, Jane?
Close enough, Archie. But what of it?
Now, what is this nonsense all about, Wolfe?
Mr. Wolfe is trying to make something out of nothing.
I think Mr. Wolfe is going to turn up something mighty interesting. Don't look so perturbed, Joe.
Since I am playing the part of the late Mr. Collins, pass me Jane's glass.
I'll keep my glass, Mr. Wolfe. I haven't finished my drink.
You're a very clever woman, Mrs. Collins.
Would it be too much if I ask what this is all about?
What worries you, Archie?
You make it sound as if that drink she's holding is poison. But it can't be, because as yesterday, she's already drunk half of it herself.
When our freezer broke down, she was more than willing to bring a bucket of ice cubes, wasn't she?
So?
What would happen, Archie, if you froze a gelatine-coated pellet of poison in the center of one particular ice cube? Mrs. Collins hasn't finished her drink. Notice the ice is all melted now. She hasn't taken one sip since the ice melted completely. She came prepared in case she was exposed. Smell it, Archie.
No, Archie, stand back. I can easily swallow this before you can reach me. Mr. Wolfe, in a few seconds, I'll drink it. But tell me something first. Tell me how you knew.
Jane, listen to me.
I knew there was going to be a murder last night because you said so. I knew that it was you who would commit the murder because it was you who invited me. You hoped an expert witness would prove that you couldn't have killed your husband. So I sent Archie Goodwin, whose observations are always exact, even when he doesn't know the import of what he's observing.
She brought back clean glasses. She poured the drinks out of bottles already open. And if anybody had put anything in or touched one of those glasses, I would have seen it.
Exactly. The poison pellet was frozen in a certain ice cube. Mrs. Collins put that cube in her own drink, drank it until the ice had almost melted down to the poisonous pellet center. And then she took all the other glasses away, leaving only hers half full. And as usual, her husband drank it.
No, Jane, don't.
Too late, Joe. It's too late.
Well, boss, Jane didn't get away with a suicide try. That was clever thinking you did.
I prepared a cube of ice in which I had frozen a gelatine capsule containing nothing more than a vitamin compound. I substituted for the cube in which Jane had placed the poison for herself.
Wonder why Jane Collins wanted to have Joe. He'd stolen practically all the money in the company. He was just a crook.
Birds of a feather, Archie. I don't believe Joe Boyce had any idea that Jane was planning a murder. And he still had all the money.
Well, the forgeries will put him away for a long time. And poor Georgia could have had it pinned on her if it hadn't been for me.
Yes. You knew all along, didn't you, that Jane had planned to have Georgia accused by planting another pellet of the poison in Georgia's handbag. Jane would have gotten rid of her husband and Joe's wife in one stroke. You knew all that, didn't you?
Well, how about a bottle of beer, boss?
Could you spare the time?
Georgia. Beautiful redhead. Wonder where she is tonight.
I'm sure I haven't the slightest idea, but in case you do... well, just be quiet with the elevator door when you come in.
You have been listening to The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe, starring Sydney Greenstreet. Tonight's transcribed story by Mindred Lord was based on the characters created by Rex Stout. This is an Edwin Fadiman program, produced and directed by J. Donald Wilson. In the cast were Harry Bartell as Archie Goodwin, and G.G. Pearson, Herb Butterfield, Peter Leeds, Evelyn Eaton, and Bill Johnstone. Next week at this same time, Nero Wolfe and Archie will bring you The Case of the Malevolent Medic. Don Stanley speaking.
74 years ago, February 16th, 1951, The New Adventures of Nero Wolfe here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Coming up tomorrow on the podcast, we will have comedy with my friend Irma, Fibber McGee and Molly. We'll have Bob Hope, Abbott and Costello, and Claudia. That'll all be coming up tomorrow. Up next, the FBI in Peace and War.
Government officials suggest that every family store a 2-week emergency food and water supply in case of attack. Choose canned or dried foods that can be eaten without cooking.
And I still strongly suggest you try to keep that 2-week food supply around your home. If for no other reason, supply chain shortages these days are still a distinct possibility. So make sure that you're ready because, when you're hungry, you need something. All righty, let's go on here with Classic Radio Theater. By the way, did I mention that visiting our webpage, classicradio.stream, a great way to support the podcast? There are a lot of things there that you need to know about and good stuff to learn about. All righty, let's roll on here now. We go back 55 years, February 16th, 1955, 70 years ago, 70 years ago, February 16th, 1955, the FBI in Peace and War, strictly business. Yeah, strictly.
The FBI in Peace and War.
Another great story based on Frederick L. Collins' copyrighted book, The FBI in Peace and War. Drama, thrills, action. Tonight's story, Strictly Business.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, good morning. I'd like to see Mr. Farley, please.
Yes, sir. Do you have an appointment?
Well, no, I guess I don't. Is that necessary?
Usually. What did you wish to see Mr. Farley about? Perhaps I could help you.
Well, I wanted to see him about renting a piece of property. I saw your sign on the storefront.
Well, I'll see if Mr. Farley's busy. And what is your name, please?
Dennis. Hubert Dennis.
Well, sit down, Mr. Dennis. I'll tell Mr. Farley you're here.
Now, Jim, that piece is worth $40 a front foot. I don't care if anyone's... Oh, hold it just a second, will you? What do you want, Agnes?
There's a Mr. Dennis outside. He wants to talk to you about renting some property.
Well, what property? Can't you see I'm busy, Agnes? Find out what he wants. Tell him to wait.
Yes, sir.
Hello, Jim. This is Agnes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dennis. Mr. Farley is busy right now. If you could tell me the property you're interested in.
Oh, of course. It's the Hawthorne building out on Main Avenue. I'm with the real estate division of the Windsor chain stores, and we might be interested.
Windsor chain stores?
Yes. You've heard of us?
Well, indeed, I have. Mr. Farley ought to be through with that phone call. I'll check him again.
Well, $35 a front foot, Jim. And not a penny left. Agnes, for the love of heaven.
Mr. Farley, Mr. Dennis is with the Windsor chain stores, and they want to rent the Hawthorne building.
Jim, I'll call you right back. Something big just came in the front door. Windsor chain stores, or why didn't you say so in the first place? Oh, Mr. Dennis, a pleasure to see you, sir. Come right into my office, please.
Leslie Hubert St. Dennis, with 25 aliases, was a mild-mannered swindler who had worked the art of the easy dollar for 20 years. He was considered by all law enforcement agencies to be a very difficult man to catch. His face was not distinctive, he had no peculiar habits, he dressed conservatively, lived modestly, and stole an unobtrusive $8,000 to $10,000 a year. By criminal standards, Hubert Dennis was strictly business. And up to the spring of 1952, quite a success.
But you would never think it to look at him, this mild little guy in the real estate division of an outfit like Windsor Chain Stores.
Now, never mind the mild little guy. How much rental did you ask him for the building?
Well, Sam, as your broker and a personal friend
How
besides...
much, Ed?
Well, I asked an annual rental of $40,000 or 1% of the gross, whichever was higher.
What did he say?
Well, first he said it was a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. I'll take half.
Now, Sam, as your broker and personal
friend... Will they give
friend...
me half? I've been stuck with that building for 2 years, Ed. Money going down the drain, nothing coming in.
Sam, as your
Settle
friend...
for $18,000, Ed, but get a nice long lease. If I got one of the Windsor stores in my building...
Sam, as your
I'll tell you
broker-
what, take $16,000. Or 1.5% if they'll sign a 10-year lease.
Sam, are you through?
Yeah. You got any of those bicarbonate pills around?
No, you ate them all last time somebody got interested in your building. Now, look, Sam, it's almost 5 o'clock. Go back to your office. Let me handle this, will you?
All right, Ed, you handle it. Do anything you want, but please get somebody in that building before the mice take over.
Will you stop worrying, Sam? I think we're onto something solid this time. Come in.
Mr. Dennis was on the phone, Mr. Farley.
Oh, thank you, Agnes. Hello.
No, sir, he was on the phone, but he isn't now. He talked to me, Mr. Farley.
Well, what did he want? Why didn't you put him through to me?
Well, I was going to, Mr. Farley, but all he wanted to know...
Yes?
He wanted to know what was a nice place to eat dinner.
Is that all?
No, sir. He also wanted to know... Well, seeing as he was a stranger in town, he wanted to know if you didn't mind if he asked me to come with him if I didn't mind.
Ed.
Yes, Sam.
Maybe 20,000 is a little low.
Maybe it is, Sam. Agnes?
Yes, sir.
You like your job here?
Oh, yes, sir.
All right. Then get out of this office and have dinner with Mr. Dennis. And stop by the flower shop and get yourself an orchid. Well, go on, Agnes. Get going. Don't stand there with your mouth open.
The racket employed by Leslie Hubert St. Dennis was simple and quite effective. Having established himself as a representative of some large company, usually a chain store, he then proceeded to set up a little competition to stimulate the act.
Yes, I think you've got a good, solid location here, Mr. Farley. And plenty of floor space, too.
Well, I'm glad you like it, Mr. Dennis. There's been some pretty keen bidding for this location, but Sam Archer doesn't want just anybody in this building. He wants an outfit with class.
Yes, I imagine so. Could we sit down a minute? My feet hurt.
Of course.
I think I've walked through every vacant store in Norbury these last 4 days.
I'll bet you have.
I wear arch supports, but by the time I make up my mind on a location, I'm pretty beat.
Oh, I can imagine.
Of course, after 4 days, I've got it pretty well narrowed down, you might say.
It takes a bit of doing, though, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But I think it's between this location and that one down on West Street.
Oh?
Naturally, I don't make the final decision. I mean, that's up to the head of the department. But mostly they follow my recommendations.
Now, with your experience, I should think they would.
Well, they do mostly. It's quite a responsibility, I guess.
I'll bet it is.
If they paid me in proportion to that, I'd be making pretty good money. But you know how it is with a big outfit like Windsor.
Kind of close, huh?
Well, they aren't giving anything away, I'll tell you that much. My, it's 4 o'clock already. I'd better get back to the hotel for my nap.
Well, I'll drop you off, Mr. Dennis.
Oh, no, don't bother, please. I'll window shop and pretend I can afford all the nice things I see.
Shall I call you tomorrow?
No, don't call me, Mr. Foley. I'll call you.
Hello?
Hello, Sam. It's me, Ed. I'm on your extension over at the building.
So what happened?
Well, nothing yet, Sam, but I think I see a way to swing this.
Yeah? How?
I can't tell you over the phone. It wouldn't be ethical.
Ooh, is it that good?
I think so, Sam. So stay in your office. I'm coming right over.
Although Leslie Hubert St. Dennis was a mild-mannered man, he concealed underneath this placid exterior a rather romantic nature. His success with the ladies was revealed when Agent Reynolds and I talked with Mrs. Nora Wilkins. Mrs. Wilkins was a bookkeeper in an office where Dennis had pulled one of his swindles.
So you knew, Mrs. Wilkins, that the police were looking for Dennis?
Well, yes, I guess I did, in a kind of a way.
And yet you didn't tell anybody that you and Mr. Dennis were quite friendly during his stay here.
Well, why should I tell anybody? All we did was go to a couple of dinners, and one afternoon he took me for a ride in his car.
Wasn't there some talk of marriage, Mrs. Wilkins?
It was not. Whoever said such a thing?
Your sister. We talked to her this morning.
Well, it's not true. Or maybe he might have mentioned it in a letter or something like that.
He wrote to you?
A couple of times.
Do you have those letters, Mrs. Wilkins?
No, I don't think so.
Mrs. Wilkins.
Well, maybe I have, but I won't give them to you. I refuse. You can't make me. I don't believe all these things you're saying about Hubert. I don't believe any of them.
Mrs. Wilkins.
I'm not going to tell you anything. Hubert was a fine and sensitive man. People just never understood him, that's all.
Well, we'll be back to talk to you later in the day, Mrs. Wilkins.
You're wasting your time. I'm not going to tell you anything.
We'll be here around 5. Please don't go out before that.
When did the sister say the last letters came?
About 3 weeks ago.
From Norbury, Ohio.
He's quite the lady killer, isn't he?
Yeah, in addition to all those other talents. Where to now?
How about another talk with the owner of that loft building? We could always use more background on the dentist technique.
But that's the whole point, Sam. He couldn't come right out and say that he wanted money, now could he?
I don't know, Ed. It's kind of risky.
Now, look, he told me the Windsor people didn't pay him enough. He practically drew me a diagram, didn't he?
Well, maybe so, but offering a man a bribe...
What do you mean a bribe? Why, all you're going to do is give him a little tip.
$4,500 is more than a little tip.
All right, then. Let him recommend that location over on West Street. Go right ahead. Spend another year's upkeep on your white elephant.
Ed, this is a matter of principle. I think...
Okay, don't offer him $4,500. Try him with $35 and see if that's enough.
Well, that isn't what I meant.
I don't think you can get him for less, though, Sam.
What I meant...
You could try $2,500, but he might get insulted and drop the whole deal.
What I meant, Ed, I think maybe you ought to pay half of this.
What?
You're going to get a nice commission, aren't you?
Sam, I'm working for peanuts as it is.
5% of a 10-year lease at $40,000 is not peanuts.
Now, Sam, if I'd thought you'd misunderstand my suggestion.
I don't misunderstand at all. You want to bribe this guy to recommend my property? Okay, we bribe him. But half of this is going to be on your conscience, Ed, and half on mine. I won't take it all.
All right, Sam, if that's the way you feel about it. I guess there's no use fighting.
Okay, now what are we going to offer him?
Well, since you've got a conscience all of a sudden, you tell me.
We'll try 45, seeing as you're paying half.
Thanks.
Oh, don't mention it. When do you want the money?
The sooner the better, I guess. We can't let this deal hang forever.
And you'll sign the deal and go away, and I won't ever see you again, will I, Hubert?
No, I wouldn't say that, Agnes.
No, it's true. We're just two ships that passed in the night, I guess.
Chicago's not such a long way from Norbury, Agnes.
Oh, yes, it is 1,000,000 miles away.
Agnes, you ever been to Chicago?
Once.
You like it?
Oh, it's the most beautiful city in the whole world.
That's what I think. You'd like to live there, wouldn't you?
More than anything.
Me too. I'd like to give up all this traveling and settle down and, well, a lot of things. If I could only save a little money.
I know, that's always the trouble.
It wouldn't take much. 4,000 or 5,000.
Just 4,000 or 5,000 or a slice off the moon.
Oh, it isn't as bad as all that. I might get that in the next few days.
Oh, Hubert, don't joke. Where could you get all that without stealing it?
Well, I'm not sure, of course, but I just have an idea that Mr. Archer might want to, influence my decision on a store location.
With money?
It's the usual way.
Well, Mr. Archer's the stingiest. Hubert, isn't that unethical?
Of course not. It's done all the time. Sometimes they send me presents. Sometimes take me out to dinner. Agnes, you serious about living in Chicago?
Of course.
You won't be angry if I ask you to do something for both of us?
What, Hubert?
Well, I want to be sure Mr. Archer sends me a present.
Well, what do you want me to do?
He'll be in your office tomorrow to talk to Mr. Foley. They'll want to know if I told you anything tonight about business.
They will?
Mm-hmm. You tell them, yes, I did tell you something. I told you I just couldn't make up my mind which location to recommend.
Can't you?
I can if I'm influenced a little.
Oh, I see.
Would you do that, Agnes? For us?
You and me, Hubert?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Hubert.
Thank you, Agnes.
That's all right.
And after all, it isn't really a lie, Agnes.
Yes, it is, Hubert. But it isn't really a very big one.
Having found that Dennis had written a letter from Norbury, Ohio, Agent Reynolds and I made this our next stop. By this time, we were familiar with the Dennis real estate swindle, so we asked the local Chamber of Commerce to give us a list of real estate offices dealing in business properties. It took several days to cover these offices, where we showed pictures of Dennis, but finally, Agent Reynolds was successful.
Well, I'm sure there's some kind of mistake, Mr. Reynolds. Mr. Dennis is with the real estate division of the Windsor chain stores.
You just said you recognized that picture, Mr. Farley.
Well, yes, I did, but it's impossible.
I know.
Well, I mean, the man knew all about real estate. He discussed the lease. He set up a percentage agreement.
Dennis has been swindling for 20 years, Mr. Farley. How much was your client going to give him to get a favorable recommendation?
$4,500. Oh, wait till Sam Archer hears about this.
That's your client's name?
Yes, and I brought Dennis to him. I recommended the deal. I even suggested the
$4,500.
Uh-huh. I guess this ought to be a lesson to me.
I'll leave that up to you. Do you have any idea where Dennis is staying, Mr. Farley?
No, I don't.
But he does have an appointment here at 11 in the morning.
Yes, with Mr. Archer and me.
I'll be here if that's all right with you.
Why, of course.
And where's Mr. Archer's office? I'd like to talk to him.
He's over at 14 Main Street. Poor Sam's going to be an awful shock when he finds out he isn't renting his property. You better break it to him gently, Mr. Reynolds.
I will.
And you'll be here tomorrow at 11?
That's right. See you then, Mr. Farley.
And goodbye. Oh, Agnes, get Mr. Archer for me, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Farley?
Yes?
I couldn't help overhearing. Is the deal with Mr. Dennis off?
You bet it is, Agnes. Mr. Dennis is a swindler, and that man who just left here is an agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, I'll take Mr. Archer's call in my office.
Agnes! Just a minute, Agnes. I drove by your office and saw the lights out, so I thought I'd catch you on the way home. figured you'd walk through the park, so I'd... Agnes, wait a minute, please.
Yes, Hubert.
I was just coming to pick you up for a surprise dinner. Agnes, for goodness sake, what's the matter?
Hubert, I think the best thing you can do is get back in your car and go on your way.
I'll do no such thing.
You'd better, Hubert, while there's still time.
Agnes, you tell me what's the matter immediately.
Hubert, how could you?
How could I what?
After I believed you and trusted you. Oh, Hubert.
Oh, Agnes, you get in the car and I'll drive
Go
you home.
away, please.
Now, look, you can't stand here in a public park and cry like that without at least Agnes, come here.
Stop me.
Now, you sit right down on this bench and tell me...
You're hurting me, Hubert.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sit down, please. That's better.
You got a clean hanky.
Here.
Hey.
Now, look, Agnes.
Hubert, there was an agent of the FBI in the office about an hour ago, and he was looking for you.
A what?
An agent of the FBI. They're going to arrest you for swindling.
Agnes, someone has made a very grave mistake.
No, Hubert. Mr. Farley saw your picture. There's no mistake.
My picture?
Your criminal picture with a number under it.
Mr. Farley saw it?
Yes, Hubert.
Agnes, you don't believe this.
Yes, I do.
You believe that
Yes, Hubert, I do.
I thought you had more faith.
So did I. This morning I would have said that nothing could ever change how I felt.
Agnes, if your feelings were really deep
This morning
and
I
true...
would have said, Hubert, I'll go to Chicago with you. I'll go anywhere.
May I say
would have
that...
gone to China this morning.
And now, just because you find out I let a few greedy men give me presents...
No, it isn't that, Hubert. I might even have forgiven you that.
You might have?
Yes.
Well, then, for heaven's sake,
It's
Agnes...
her.
Her?
Not only her, them. All those women, Hubert. Mr. Farley told me Mrs. Nora Wilson, Miss Dorothy Bremer, and all the others. He told me how you won their hearts and went away. You're a wolf, Hubert.
And just a little while ago, I was a ship that passed in the night. Agnes, why didn't you tell the FBI man where I live?
I did. He must have just missed you.
You did? You mean you...
Yes, I did.
Well, I think I'll be on my way, Agnes. Goodbye, dear.
Goodbye, Hubert. Goodbye, dear. Oh, officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Officer, the man that just drove by in that car is wanted by the FBI. His license number is Ohio 12412. You better hurry. He might get away.
A citywide alarm caught Dennis within minutes after his car had left the park. Brought back to Ohio, he was charged with fraud and pled guilty. In view of Dennis' long record, he was given a term of 5 years in prison. Mr. Farley and Mr. Archer now conduct their affairs along lines that are strictly business.
This radio dramatization for the FBI in Peace and War was written by Louis Pelletier. These programs are produced and directed by Betty Mandeville. All names and characters used on the program are fictitious. Any similarity to persons living or dead is purely coincidental. This program is based upon Frederick L. Collins' copyrighted book, The FBI in Peace and War, and the broadcast does not imply endorsement, authorization, or approval by the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
We pause now for station identification.
70 years ago, February 16, 1955, the FBI in Peace and War. Here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. William Gargan up next. Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Every family should have a home shelter area. Every family should stock that shelter area with a 2-week supply of food and water. Prepare now to survive disaster.
Still good information to this day. William Gargan up next. Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Also from 70 years ago, February 16th, 1955. The Moving Target.
William Gargan stars as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
A tempestuous blonde wants a carefree Romeo to slow up and settle down. It isn't always sweet surrender. Not if she emphasizes her demands with hot lead.
The National Broadcasting Company presents William Gargan in another transcribed drama of mystery and adventure with America's #1 detective, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator.
Barrie Craig speaking. In any national poll where voters were asked to elect the prize chump of 1955, I know one candidate who'd walk away with the title. Mr. Fenley, Bertram Fenley, to give the champion sap of our time his full name. I first met Fenley on the docks, Pier 82. He'd phoned me very hush-hush to please meet him there. I found him on the pier, squatting on 2 beat-up valises, looking like he'd just come off the banana boat docked right behind him. He had, it turned out.
I was on that boat, Mr. Craig, the Hilda May. I was in Honduras. That's in the Orient.
Honduras is in Central America, Mr. Fenley.
Oh, yes. Well, I mean Central America.
A middle-aged man with fat cheeks and a mild look. So, what's your trouble, Mr. Fenley?
Oh, my trouble is just the right word. I don't know how to begin to tell you.
Well, there's a coffee pot across the street. Let's talk in there, huh? Over rancid coffee and stale donuts, Fenley stated his problem.
Yes, well, I'll show you all these papers, Mr. Craig. You would like to look them over?
The Anzio Calhoun Hotel Land Development Corporation. The big print says.
That's my employer. I was sent overseas to make diagrams of land space for building modern hotels.
Well, I see you did a cost analysis.
Oh, yes. That one file of papers in your hand represents 3 months' work.
Meaning there are other files of paper?
Yes, I've been abroad 3 times now. I've completed reports on Honduras, Siam, the Belgian Congo, and in a little village called Kukasanka.
Kukasanka? I've never heard of it.
Well, nobody has. It doesn't appear on the map. It took me 27 days to find it. Kukasanka is mainly 12 straw huts located 270 miles due east of Rangoon.
And your company is scouting it as a modern hotel site?
Well, that was my understanding.
Now, you've been traveling here and there for how long?
8 months.
All expenses paid?
Yes, my expenses to date have been $7,000.
Why did you contact me to meet you secretly at the dock?
Well, in Honduras, I received a telegram. And not to come home, but to proceed on to Borneo.
And prepare more papers?
Yes.
But you hopped aboard a banana boat instead and came home?
Yes. You see, I had begun to suspect.
Oh, at long last. What else has fired your suspicions?
Well, mysterious incidents overseas.
Like unexplainable accidents, huh? You almost lost a leg or an arm?
Yes, and even my life. Once in a village named Terabumba on the African coast, I was arrested as an enemy spy.
Somebody planted documents in your luggage?
Yes, and I was thrown into a dungeon without trial.
So how come you're here today?
The merciful heavens intervened. A tidal wave overran the village. It washed every building off its foundation.
And washed you into the open?
I fled by ox cart.
Enough. I've had it up to my ears. Now, where will you be staying?
The Yankee Doodle Hotel on the Lower Bowery. No one will think to look.
Okay, fine. Now, I'll come see you after I've talked to your so-called employer. Back outside on the dock street, I got a dramatic insight into just how violent incidents kept dogging poor Fennelly's footsteps. Crossing over to my jalopy, a black touring car came straight at us. It had curtains drawn like a hearse. Abreast of us, it sang a funeral requiem. Submachine gun. Fennelly, hit the dirt. We lay on the cobblestones, flatter than a couple of deflated pancakes. 60 seconds after the danger had passed, Fennelly was still speechless. I could say it was an attempt on your life, Fennelly. I can't see anybody machine gunning the street just to be naughty. However, come on if we're going. The Anzio Calhoun Hotel land, etc., occupied a 6-room suite just off Park Row. Well furnished, but deserted. No sign of business activity. In the last room of the joint, I found a live tenant. A guy in a silk suit with the glue loose on his toupee. It flapped over his brow. He was fast asleep. I gave up the notion of giving him a hot one. I just settled for a shove. Hey, rise and shine.
Hey, what's the idea?
Now, put the gun away.
Gun? Oh, force a habit, friend.
I'm sure.
Yeah, what do you want?
Well, I've got a chain of hotels to sell. There's a television set in every broom closet.
Oh, you're a comic, huh? Don't audition for me, huh? I don't like funny men.
Then suppose I switch professions. How's this impersonation for you?
Oh, badge, huh? Well, you won't advance your career here, copper. We got nothing here to interest a private dick.
6 rooms and 20 desks and only 1 telephone.
We've been retrenching.
So fire Bertram Fennelly, why don't you?
Fennelly's canned the minute he gets back from the Borneo assignment.
But Fennelly didn't go to Borneo.
No? Hey, we wired him to... Hey, how is it you know all about Fennelly to begin with, huh?
It happens I'm representing him.
Huh? Fennelly's here in New York?
He is.
Well, but that's going against his instructions.
You wanted him to keep on wandering.
Hey, wandering is his job with Anzio Calhoun. That's why he's on the company tab.
To prepare reports on hotel sites, huh?
Yeah.
Now, where in creation to date has your company built a hotel? 1 hotel.
Hey, now look, guy, we're set up legal. We're incorporated. Read that certificate on the wall. We got stock floating. 300,000 shares at $1 a throw. And that's only the first issue. We got big plans. So wipe that grin off your kisser, huh?
Just what are the big plans?
Hotels in out-of-the-way places and landing strips to every unit. No competition across the street like down in Miami. Now, you know our idea.
Sounds screwy. What exactly are Fennelly's qualifications for scouting hotel sites for you?
Hey, Fennelly was a big hotel keeper. That's why we put him on for us. Fennelly has the experience. And now I want to catch a little snooze, huh?
One more thing. Your name?
It's printed on the door.
Cupie Marino. Cupie.
Yeah, my old lady stuck me with the name. At the time, I was too little to argue.
Every guy has his racket, but Marino's had me mystified. So far, anyhow. Why anybody would squander $7 grand in travel expenses on a screwball like Fennelly. The evening papers added to the general confusion. There was a scare headline in it. Rampaging college students tour town firing toy submachine gun. Police threaten harsh measures. College pranksters. That could account for what had looked like an attempt on Fennelly's life earlier. In the Yankee Doodle Hotel, Fennelly breathed a sigh of relief over the headline.
Oh, my. Well, then the shooting wasn't meant for me.
Or this could be a mere coincidence. But let's get down to meatier stuff.
Yes. You saw Mr. Marino?
I did.
And your opinion of him?
Well, he draws a gun as regularly as ordinary men draw a breath.
Am I then the victim of some hoax?
Maybe so. Or maybe just a useful stooge. Traveling about and preparing paper reports So that Anzio, Calhoun, etc. can lie about their big plans.
Lie to whom?
Sucker investors who read their stock investment prospectus. Big talk about their preliminary field operations. That's you, Fenley. Their whole field staff.
Oh, I see.
Marino said you were a, quote, big hotel keeper, unquote, when he latched onto you. Now, how about that?
Oh, well, it is a mite exaggerated.
So shrink it to size, huh?
Well, I ran a rooming house in Buxton Falls.
Buxton Falls? Oh, out in Ohio, huh?
Yes.
Well, how big an operation was it? Come on now. No false modesty.
4 roomers. But I served ice cantaloupe for breakfast.
Imagine. How did Marino get to know about you in the first place? An ad in the paper or something?
No. I won a contest here in New York.
How come?
Well, I'll explain.
Oh, I'm dying to hear.
At home in Buxton Falls, this was. The telephone rang one night. It was New York, they said. And then somebody asked me something. Could I name 10 American presidents?
You could, and you did, and you won a prize, the man said.
Yes, a weekend in a big New York hotel, tickets to a Broadway show, a case of automobile polish, cufflinks.
And stuff.
Yeah, stuff, and an appearance on the radio.
To do what?
Recite President James Madison's inauguration speech.
Which leads us to Marino.
Yes, he telephoned me at the hotel where I was staying. Oh, he'd been much impressed with me on the radio, Mr. Marino said.
And as a mighty hotel keeper, plus brain, did you want a job with Anzio, Calhoun, etc.?
That's right, and I accepted at once.
Oh, you would. Who produced the so-called show that changed the course of your previously humdrum existence?
Why, Mr. Adrian Borislav.
Located where?
Well, the Advanced Theatrical Enterprises on Broadway, uptown.
The Advanced Theatrical Enterprises, huh? What do you bet I find 6 deserted rooms and a hood snoozing on a sofa? My guess on the Advanced Theatrical Enterprises was only partly correct. There were only 5 offices in this suite, and nobody in them. Hello, anybody? Not even my echo. In the last room of the suite, I found my sleeper.
Oh, Nick.
No hood this time out. A doll. A pretty face. More rouge than mouth. 3 shades of hair and her shoes off. I woke her up gently. Now, rise and shine, gorgeous.
Who are you?
Barrie Craig, a detective. And you?
Margie. I dreamed somebody was...
Tickling your feet?
Yeah.
I was. With this.
My pencil.
Oh, I just returned it. Now, a gent named Borislav. Where do I find him?
Ha ha!
Did I just crack a joke?
I'll say you did.
Well, enlighten me.
Who doesn't want to find Adrian Borislav?
Oh, he's that popular?
He's that much of a skunk.
You sound like you were left holding a bag.
Holding it for $500, 10 weeks' salary.
You were Borislav's secretary?
I was. Now I'm in here every day for a week, just waiting for that creep to show up.
Characterize Adrian Borislav for me.
With pleasure. He's a petty promoter, a deadbeat. He bought radio time on small stations just to publicize himself as Mr. Big, to attract attention to himself. He ran cheesy little nothing contests. Mind you, they were all on the level. After all, it only amounted to cheap advertising.
Well, what was his real pitch here in the actual offices?
Vanity publications for composers and poets, writers, models. He'd skin 'em, but good.
I see. And now Borislav of Advanced Theatricals has flown the coop.
Go look at the unpaid bills on his desk. Deadbeat. My flesh is beginning to crawl, hanging around here. You got any more questions you'd like to ask me?
I have.
Then do it over a drink. Heavens to Hannah, do I need a drink.
When Bright Eyes had lubricated her gullet sufficiently, I got back to the business at hand. Were you with Borislav when a screwball named Bertram Fennelly rode in from Buxton Falls?
Popsy?
Popsy?
Fenley. My nickname for him was Popsy.
Sounds affectionate.
Oh, I'm crazy about Popsy. I'm more at home in the company of older men.
Well, what's wrong with the younger men?
Their conceit.
How did you people in Advanced Theatrical get Fennelly's name and phone number to begin with?
We're out of the higher telephone directory. We picked 10 names from each state and put them all in a goldfish bowl. You know, like a raffle.
I see.
There was nothing ever dishonest about Mr. Borislov's contests. Not the contests.
I wonder.
You wonder? Say, are you insinuating something?
I'll keep it friendly. I'll shut up.
Look, be unfriendly. I don't care. You're thinking something. Be a man and come on out with it.
You hate me?
I practically do already anyhow. So come out with it.
All right. I think you were planted in that office, Doll, to sell me a line of bull. Account for Borislav in absentia. Call him foul names as you did, but steer me away from looking for him.
Why, you cheap
Temper. Your job was also to nicely explain Fennelly's original presence here in New York.
But I tell you, Popsy won a contest.
Sure, but my guess is the contest was only a device in the first place.
A device for what?
I'll answer that with a question of my own. What's the tie-up between Advanced Theatricals and a setup called Anzio Calcoon? No answer, huh?
Please, don't you dare pay for my drink. I'll treat myself. Don't think the company hasn't been nauseating.
Any blonde with saucer eyes and 3 lovely shades of hair who can't snare her man is a dead blonde awaiting burial. But Margie was alive, and Fennelly was willing. All of which led to new complications.
Well, I've come to say goodbye, Mr. Craig.
Where are you going?
Well, frankly, I feel like such a fool.
So talk like one.
I'm going to Borneo.
After all?
But I'm afraid my misapprehensions about the Anzio Calcoon Hotel land development
were all imaginary.
Yes.
Marino's been in touch with you, huh?
Yes, he offered me a substantial increase in salary.
And you snapped it up?
Well, the fact is, I have personal reasons for going abroad this time. It promises to be very enjoyable.
I can see.
You can see?
And smell. That cologne on you.
Oh, a phantom lover. It's a toilet water.
The axle grease in your hair. The snazzy new suit and the yellow pointed shoes. And that tea rose in your buttonhole. Why, Fennelly, you're a regular Beau Brummel.
Well, thank you.
And it all spells blonde to me. Margie, huh?
The fact is, yes, we're engaged.
To be married where?
In Borneo.
And why in Borneo?
Margie, that's my fiancée, is rather incredibly romantic.
Yes, I see. She wants to be married by a tribal chief.
A tribe? Why, how did you guess?
Oh, I took 9 easy lessons in mysticism. Now, how did you fall for it?
Well, I'm not sure I shouldn't resent it.
Fennelly, how dumb can you be? Can't you see this is only another maneuver to start you traveling?
Yes, but why should anyone want me?
That's the nub of it. Just why do people look on Bertram Fennelly as a necessary export? Now, Fennelly.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
Call quits on Marino and quit mooning over Margie. Margie's jackassing you. She, the disappeared Borislav, and Marino are all working together. Against you.
Against me, but why?
But why? And why is what we don't know yet. Go back to your hotel, Fennelly, and stay there. Incommunicado. You're a fish who snaps up at any bait. So don't see or talk to anybody.
But I'm not going back to the Yankee Doodle Hotel, Mr. Craig.
Why not?
Because I'm going home. To human Buxton Falls, Mr. Craig. I have absolutely had more than I can stand.
But Fennelly didn't make Buxton Falls as it developed. He got as far as Pennsylvania Station, New York. Then got himself a free ride downtown. In the paddy wagon to the Tombs. Which was where I next found him. In a state of collapse.
Oh, for this shameful thing to happen to me.
What are you accused of?
Theft of a wallet.
Did you have the wallet on you?
Yes, but...
But?
But I found it in Pennsylvania Station while waiting for my... It was there. It was right at my feet.
Then up came a complainant and a cop.
Yes.
And?
The complainant, a Mr. Sampson Maxwell, swore that I had...
Picked his pocket.
Yes.
Sampson Maxwell of the Borislav Marino Margie Combine. Fennelly, your middle name is Trouble.
Oh, but it's an infamous lie.
This tactic of the wallet adds a new wrinkle to the older pattern.
Yes, but I don't understand.
Up to now, I figured the idea was to keep you out of the country. Knocked off overseas, or failing that. Anyhow, keep you traveling around.
But now...
Now I figure the idea is to mainly keep you out of Buxton Falls.
Keep me from my hometown?
Just as they lured you out of it. With that phony contest.
Well, I'm confused.
You were born confused. Borislav lured you away from Buxton Falls. Then Marino sent you overseas. Now a Maxwell fixed it so you can't get home to Buxton Falls. He thinks.
Yes, but what can all this mean?
An idea is beginning to glimmer in this beautiful head of mine. We'll go into it, Fennelly, when I post bail for you. I posted bail for Fennelly. $50 by special courtesy of the DA's office. Then I grabbed Margie from under a hair-drying machine in Madame Zelda's beauty parlor and waltzed her through the streets. At the Times Square out-of-town newsstand, Fennelly joined us, as prearranged, for a look at the front page of the Buxton Falls Bugle.
Murder trial nearing close. Why, there's a murder trial going on back home.
Defense bases case on alibi for New York mobster Stitch Latimer.
Stitch Yeah.
Oh, no?
Mr. Craig, what does it say there?
Well, the gist of it is, Stitch Latimer is charged with killing a guard in a factory payroll robbery. 8 months ago, this was, Fennelly. About the time you began traveling.
Mm-hmm.
Latimer's defense is that it's all mistaken identity, that he never set foot in Buxton Falls in his life. Oh, Fennelly.
Yes.
Here's an inside picture of Latimer. You ever see him before?
Let me see. Ever see? Why, yes, he roomed with me once. Overnight. He said he was a traveling salesman.
Well, there's the why of your travels. You're the only man who can place Latimer in Buxton Falls at the time he was there. Probably casing the job he finally pulled.
Oh, and the others? Marino, Borislav, and Maxwell?
Latimer's boys. Trying to get him out from under. By keeping you out of Buxton Falls until the trial is over. Right, Margie?
My mouth is sealed.
Oh, that's too bad.
What's too bad?
Talk freely and you could cop a plea. Why take those rosy lips out of circulation for years?
How bad is it for a girl in jail?
No jukeboxes and tall drinks.
Who cares?
No hairdryers.
I can live without.
No, wolf whistles.
As bad as that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So who do I talk to? Where?
You've been listening to William Gargan in another exciting transcribed mystery drama from the adventures of Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Tonight's story, The Moving Target, was written by John Robert. Next week, it's the strange story, Hour of Reckoning, about which Barrie Craig has this to say. In Hour of Reckoning, a manicurist and a playboy find the rocky road to romance is a dead-end street when a certain ill-wisher contributes a corpse to the bride's trousseau. National Broadcasting Company has just brought you an NBC Radio Network production with William Gargan, starring as Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Directed by Andrew C. Love, the cast included Lynn Allen, Howard McNear, and Jerry Hausner. Join Groucho Marx for You Bet Your Life tonight on the NBC Radio Network.
70 years ago, February 16th, 1955, Barrie Craig, confidential investigator. Coming up on our Monday show, I should say, will be a comedy with My Friend Irma, starring Marie Wilson, Fibber McGee and Molly, Bob Hope, and Abbott and Costello. And then coming up on Tuesday, The Weird Circle, I Was a Communist for the FBI, Sherlock Holmes, and Dangerous Assignment. On Wednesday, more comedy with Henry Morgan, A Day in the Life of Dennis Day, Bob Hope, Fibber and Molly, and Lum and Abner. And then we'll have the half-hour Lum and Abner show coming up on Thursday, along with A Date with Judy, starring Frank Sinatra as a guest. Also, Groucho Marx, a guest on the Jack Benny Show, and Ozzie and Harriet. And then we'll wrap up next week with Stanley and Shirley, starring as in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, another Dragnet episode, Dr. Christian, and Suspense. That's all ahead in the next week here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. But up next, another episode in The Adventures of Superman.
The sound you hear is a recording of the warning siren in case of an imminent nuclear attack.
If this was an actual attack warning, would you be prepared?
Would your family be prepared?
If not, CA Survival, Civil Defense approved, steel and concrete, basement type, fallout shelter.
The shelter, along with a basic equipment kit, affords you and your family maximum protection.
Survival shelters are FHA approved.
No money down. 5 years to pay.
Horrible though it may be, this sound may someday become a reality.
Be prepared. See a survival shelter today.
Yes, being prepared, even back in the 60s. Alrighty, we wrap up this edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox with another episode of Superman. 83 years ago, February 16th, 1942. More of the Ghost Car.
Presenting the transcription feature, Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from the planet Krypton, who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can leap tall buildings at a single bound, race a speeding bullet to its target, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for a great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice. But before we join Superman, listen.
And now to our story. While investigating the strange series of accidents that have been plaguing the Barrow Ranch, Clark Kent learned that Ed Jenks, a local real estate agent, has been trying to buy the ranch from Steve Graham, its owner. Visiting Jenks, Kent learned the real estate agent had no idea whom he represented. His only contact with his client was an occasional mysterious phone call. It was during one of these calls, while Kent was present, that a trap was set to catch the unknown purchaser. As our story continues today, Kent and Jenks have a rendezvous at an old abandoned gold mine on Steve Graham's property. They are waiting anxiously for the arrival of the man whom Kent believes is responsible for the ghost car, as well as the other unexplained accidents on the Barrow Ranch. As we join them, Kent is giving Ed Jenks a few last-minute instructions.
Now remember, if he calls out, don't let him know I'm here.
Don't worry, I won't.
Someone's coming. Quick, put out the light.
Okay.
It's just outside the door. Get ready. Here he comes.
Hello in there.
Now, Jenks, get him. Right. Hey, let's go. Get him. Who are you? The whole thing is who are you? Wait.
Turn on the flashlight. There. Well, who is he?
We'll know as soon as I roll him over. Come on, let's your face.
What?
It's Steve Green.
Well, Kent, if you're through mauling me, suppose you explain this.
I think the explanation should come from you, Mr. Graham.
From me? You seem to forget that I own this mine. It's on my property.
You don't understand, Steve. Mr. Kent and I come
Just
here.
a minute, Jenks. Well, Graham, I don't know why I should have to explain anything to you. But if you must know, I was out riding when I saw someone going into the mine. I've given strict orders for everyone to stay out of here. The supporting beams are old, and they may collapse at any time. Oh, I came over to see what was doing.
You just happened to be riding this way?
Yes. And now suppose you tell me what you're doing here.
I told you yesterday I wanted to look the mine over.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Yes, it looks as if we all kind of made a mistake.
Now, wait a second. That still doesn't explain what Ed Jenks
Mr.
did.
Jenks came along to show me how to get into the mine. You recall I went down to see him about the prospective purchaser.
Well, who is the party? Why does he want the ranch?
I ain't never seen him, Steve. I don't know him from Adam. We just talk to him on the phone sometimes.
That's strange. Yeah, but look here, Kent. How can you be sure this man, Ed's client, whoever he is, caused all the accident?
I'm not sure. But he's been awfully anxious to buy the ranch.
Well, that's just it. The ranch isn't worth the risks he's taking.
How about this mine? Are you sure it's worthless?
Positive. It was played out 30 years ago.
That's right. I used to work here. The mine did pay once.
Sure, but the vein of gold was exhausted. There's nothing left now but scattered streaks of color. The only gold here would cost more to take out than it's worth.
Just the same, I want to look it over.
I wouldn't stay here if I were you, Kent.
Why not?
I told you. Some of the beams are rotten. The whole shaft may collapse.
Oh, it seemed pretty solid. I'll look around for a while.
You won't find a thing.
Well, maybe not, but it's worth a look.
Well, it's up to you. You're risking your life, not mine.
I don't think it's that serious.
Well, I'm going. You coming, Jenks?
No, I think I'll stay with Mr. Kent. Been a long time since I've been here. I'd kind of like to look the old place over again.
Very well. Goodbye.
See you later, Graham. Sorry I jumped on you the way I did.
There's no harm done. Be careful.
We will. All right, Jenks. Let's go. Yeah. Well, it's too bad Mr. Graham come along when he did. He must have scared away the fellow we're waiting for. Yeah, I suppose he did. Well, can't help it now. Hey, Mr. Kent, what you looking for down here? Wish I knew. There's something on this property someone's mighty anxious to get. And this mine looks like the best bet to me. No, this mine ain't worth nothing. Well, I still want to look around. How far does this shaft we're following go? Oh, about a mile or so. Twists in and out. It used to be some job in the old days, pushing a cart along here. Is that what you did? Yep. I'd take an empty cart down to where the men were digging, fill it up, and then push it up again. Right fast where we're walking now. That's all. You should have been here then, Mr. Kent. Rocky Point was some town. Nothing like it is now. Real mining town, eh? Lots of excitement? Sure was. Yeah, it's all gone now. Well, can't say I got cause to complain, though. I do all right in real estate business. Hey, James. What's this? Huh? Oh, that's nothing. Just a part of the wall caved in. Rainwater seeps through and weakens it. Someday the whole business will come down, I reckon. Wait a second, Jenks. You find something? Yes. What? Here, look. Look at this piece of ore. Hey, wait. Get light on it. Well, what do you think? Oh, it ain't gold ore. That much I'll tell you. I wasn't thinking of gold. Well, this stuff's worthless. Might as well chuck it away. No, wait. No. Don't do that. I ain't no mineralogist, Mr. Kent, but I know enough to tell you this ain't worth a cent. No, never mind. I want it. Okay, here it is. I can't see what you want it for. Not sure, but I think I've seen ore like this before. Yeah? Yeah, the trouble is I can't remember just what it is. It's in the back of my mind, but I can't recall. Well, if you ask me, I think you're wasting your time down here. What was it I saw ore like this? Well, it's just like trying to remember a man's name. There it is, right on the tip of your tongue. You can't get it off. Yeah, most die trying to remember a name sometimes. Just the way I feel now. Well, it might come back to you. Maybe. Anyway, I'm taking this ore with me. But I bet it don't have no gold in it. Probably not. I'm going to have it analyzed anyway. All right. You know, it's a funny thing. I reckon I changed since I was a kid, but this old mind gives me the creeps now. Any objection to going back?
No, we may as well.
Yeah, too bad you didn't find nothing.
I've got a hunch I have found something.
No, you'll see tonight.
Wait a minute.
Oh, what's the matter?
I hear something.
I don't hear nothing.
Yes, I'm sure of it. Let's go further along the tunnel.
You're hearing things, Mr. Kent.
No, there's something going on up ahead. Come on.
Okay, I'll go along with you, but I can't hear nothing.
Hurry.
Not so fast. I ain't as young as you are.
Wait. There. Do you hear it now?
Hear what?
Sort of tapping noise.
Your ears must be better than mine. I can't. Wait. I reckon you're right. Yes, sir, I do hear it.
Come on.
Yeah, sounds like someone hammering.
We'll know in a minute.
It must be just around that turn.
Who's there?
Well, it's a woman.
Lois, what in the world are you doing here?
Oh, I might have known you'd show up sooner or later.
You ought to know better than to come to a place like this alone. It's dangerous.
Oh, so you think you're going to leave me back at the ranch while you follow all the leads?
Oh, no.
Now, listen to me, Clark Kent. I know a good clue when I see it.
What are you talking about?
First, don't you think it might be gentlemanly to introduce me?
Oh, sorry. Mr. Jenks, this is Miss Lane.
How do you do?
Howdy, ma'am.
Well, Lois, what are you doing here?
Well, Jimmy and I were supposed to go riding, but he decided that he wanted to practice his trick roping. So I went alone. I'd heard about this old mine, and it seemed to me to be a good reason why someone might be anxious to get possession of the Barrow Ranch.
So you rode here? Oh, funny, we didn't see your horse outside.
You didn't?
No.
Well, I left him in front of the door.
I reckon you don't know Western horses they use here, miss. You got to bring the reins over their head if you want them to stay put.
I didn't know that. You suppose he's lost?
No. He'll get back to the ranch all right.
That's good.
Well, Lois, what did your clue chasing uncover?
Plenty. Look at what I just chipped off the side of the tunnel.
Say.
What do you think of that?
Jenks, I thought you said this mine was worked out.
I'm sure it is. What you got there?
Gold. That's what he's got there, Mr. Jenks.
Here, let me see that. I don't blame you for thinking it's gold.
Well, isn't it? Look at those streaks of yellow.
That don't mean nothing. This ain't gold. It's iron pyrites. Fool's gold, they call it. Looks like gold to most folks, but it ain't worth nothing.
You sure?
No doubt about it. I've seen plenty of this stuff in my time.
Oh, dear.
Don't be too disappointed, Lois.
I was sure I'd found the solution.
Don't you worry. We'll find out who's back of all the trouble we've been having.
Mr. Kent, don't you think we better start back?
Yes, I guess so. Come on, Lois.
Okay. By the way, what are you two doing here?
Oh, we tried to spring a trap, but it didn't catch anything.
A trap?
Yes. Jenks here has been representing the man who's been trying to buy the Bar O. We tried to lure him to the mine, but he didn't show up.
Mr. Graham must have scared him away when he came along.
That's a shame. If you'd gotten him.
Yes, might have solved everything.
But still, look. What's happening to my light? Sort of flickering.
Battery's probably going dead.
I noticed it wasn't giving much light before.
Won't last much longer now. Oh, there, you see? Dead.
Yeah. Good thing we found you, miss. Nasty business being down here in the dark.
I don't even want to think about it. I'll be glad when I'm out of here. How much further do we have to go?
Not much. Just around the next bend.
What's that noise?
Say, I don't like this. Come on, let's hurry.
What is it?
I don't want to say unless it's so. Hurry.
Hold on to my arm, Lois.
Get back! Get back against the wall!
Look! The entrance.
Oh, just what I'm afraid of. It's a landslide. It's blocked the entrance.
Clark!
God, sorry. I tripped and broke the flashlight.
Clark, where are you?
Here I am, Lois.
How can we get out of here?
Jenks, is there another entrance?
I never heard of one. Tell no one.
We're trapped. We'll die here. We're buried alive.
Lois, get hold of yourself. This is no time for hysterics. Now, don't worry. We'll get out.
We'll suffocate down here.
No, we won't.
There's no air.
He's right, Kent.
We'll dig our way out.
With our bare hands. Clark. Oh, Clark. There's no use trying to fool me. I know it as well as you do. This mine is our tomb.
In pitch blackness, Clark Kent, Lois, and Jenks are sealed beneath the ground. The only exit blocked by tons of rock and earth. Only the great strength of Superman can dig a path through this barrier of fallen stone. But how can Kent rescue his companions without revealing the secret of his double identity? Don't miss the next exciting episode. Tune in and follow the story with Superman.
Don't forget, tune in again for the next thrilling episode with Superman.
Look, up in the sky.
The bird. It's a plane. It's Superman.
83 years ago, February 16th, 1942, Superman, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Join us tomorrow for comedy with Marie Wilson as My Friend Irma from 1952, Fibber and Molly from 1936, Bob Hope and Fred Astaire from 1948, Abbott and Costello from 1949, and Claudia. I'm Wyatt Cox, and we'll see you tomorrow for more Classic Radio Theater.